Good morning. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the AM show. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and I do this with Benjamin Akaku. To kickstart today's AM show, I'll serve you the news. Let's begin by the Cybersecurity Authority, who is worried about a rise in job scams across the country. In a public alert statement, the CSA stated that it has received at least 15 reports through the Cybercrime and Cybersecurity Unit reporting points of contact with victims losing over 124,000 CDs. The CSA wants citizens to beware of unsolicited messages offering job opportunities, as these scammers tend to pose as recruiters to fleece unsuspecting people. Now, the cybersecurity is saying that an increase in job scams, so look out for a new job scam approach, which has resulted in over 15 cases with victims losing more than 124,000 Ghana cedis over the past weeks. Unsolicited messages are sent by scammers through SMS, emails, WhatsApp, and Telegram. Now, these scammers pose as recruiters, offering remote, high-paying jobs for digital tasks such as liking social media posts and giving referrals to friends. Interested individuals are then recruited via a link in the unsolicited message. Victims then sign up and complete tasks for low initial payment, usually less than 200 Ghana cedis. Then these scammers will then request cash deposits for more tasks, and once payment is made, the victims are locked out of their account and lose contact with the scammers. So they are recommending that 1, beware of unsolicited job offers, 2, be skeptical of high-paying minimal work opportunities, and watch out for poor grammar and spelling mistakes in job ads. Verify job ads directly with official company sources. Avoid sharing personal or financial information without employer legitimacy. That is from the Cybersecurity Authority. Now, the Director General in charge of administration at the Ghana Police Service, COP Christian Tete Yohunu, has issued a warning to police officers to refrain from taking bribes. Speaking at a debriefing ceremony after the Christmas operation at the police headquarters, COP Tete Yohunu emphasized that avoiding bribery is crucial for enhancing the integrity of the Ghana Police Service. James Aveji has more in this report.
Now, the Ghana Police Service, has part of its strategies to ensure the safety of the public during the Christmas festivity, deployed officers on the streets across the country. Now, after working day and night, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, today met with the officers in a quick debriefing exercise at the Emergency Command Center here at the headquarters. Now, the event started with the IGP giving the opportunity to the officers who have been on the street to share their experiences with him, as well as share with him some recommendations they think would be relevant to improving such activities.
When they started in our duty, they advise us on extortion, and then when you go there to truly, these civilians, some of them like to be giving us money, but by God's grace, we always reject this kind of money.
Our ennobled IGP was with us wherever we are. And I think we, the recruits, we, the J constables, were very tired. But because of the presence of the IGP, each and every one of us was so excited.
COP Awuni, who is the Director General of the National Patrols Department, also urged the police to use this opportunity as a starting ground to deepen their relationship with the general public, as well as up their respect for the public.
One of the key points that always some members of the public will complain about us is the way we disrespect them. So if we start refusing to take money from members of the public, the second point we must endeavor to do is to begin to respect members of the public and treat them with the respect that they deserve. Remember that we are public servants. We are servants of the public. So how can a servant disrespect the master?
Meanwhile, Director General of the Ghana Police Service in charge of administration, COP Christian Tete Yohunu, warned police officers to stay away from bribery.
The assurance given by the men is that all attempt to bribe them, they rejected them. And that is kudos to them. And we want to tell the other policemen who are home and their various places are prepared to go to work, who are not part of these Galaxy Stars, they should take the example from these people. That whenever they will be on duty, they should also copy the same example and make sure that they reject anything given to them. And when we continue to do this, I tell you, a time will come when they start rating, and it has already started, that they are rating in terms of corruption, Ghana Police Day will never come at all. So we are urging all of you, what we have started, and I'm telling you that never do anything for you. It is a curse. So don't receive it and shame those people who are to bribe you, and then continue to get focused on your work.
Now, the Inspector General of Police himself, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, then used the opportunity to urge the officers to work hard to maintain the relationship they have built with the public in a short period of time, as he used the opportunity to appeal to the public to support the Ghana Police Service become one of the respected institutions in the sub-region and beyond.
We also want to thank the good people of Ghana for accommodating our shortfalls and continue to constructively criticize us, for us to use our sense of guilt and shame to continue to be better, so that we will continue to strive to become the best institution in the country and a reference point for the rest of Africa and beyond.
The whole of the exercise came to an end here with the IGP, George Akufo-Dampare himself, and members of the Police Management Board going around to, give cheers to the officers one after the other amid high morale, singing of morale songs by the officers in order to appreciate the opportunity given them by the IGP to serve the public in a way they describe as a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. From the police headquarters here in Accra, my name is James Savaji, reporting for Joy News.
Let's move from security to politics, where Special Aide to former President John Dramani Mahama, Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, is asking the media to actively combat political corruption in the lead-up to the 2024 general elections. Speaking at the 10th anniversary celebrations of Songmale FM in Wa, she emphasized that political corruption hampers pro-poor initiatives and impedes the country's development. Madam Mokhtari urged the media to expose corrupt practices, hold politicians accountable, and foster transparent and fair electoral process. Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
The 10th anniversary celebration of Wa-based community radio station Songmale FM, an affiliate partner of Joy FM, was held on the theme Impact of Media to Socio-Political and Cultural Development in our community. It has participants drawn from all walks of life, including traditional, religious, and opinion leaders, educationists, business partners, and politicians from all sides of the political divide. Special Aide to former President John Dramani Mahama, Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, who was the keynote speaker, observed the crucial role played by the media in highlighting key social challenges faced by the country, notable among them being the issue of illegal mining.
Media institutions like Songmale are platforms for people to share their opinions, concerns, and experiences, allowing for the diverse range of perspectives to be heard and witnessed. In recent times, for example, Ghana has been struggling with various societal problems. The media media has played a crucial role in bringing these issues to light. One problem that has particularly emerged is the alarming rate and increase in unlawful small-scale mining, commonly known as galamsey, which has led to significant environmental damage in our communities. The media's role in highlighting these social issues demonstrates its ability to raise awareness, encourage dialogue, and mobilize for positive social change here in Ghana.
Looking ahead to the 2024 general election, Joesba Mokhtar considered that one issue that the country will be plagued with is the issue of political corruption, which he will want the media in the country to expose and fight against.
Political corruption is one of the key things that actually militates against our policy and poor initiatives. It is therefore the responsibility of our media, and especially those in power, to hold each other accountable and expose corrupt practices as we go along. We can't influence public opinion and bring attention to the issues that matter most to our citizens. We can't help create a more transparent and fair electoral process by spotlighting political corruption.
On the issue of press freedom, Joesba Mokhtari went for the jugular of President Akufo-Addo and his vice, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, for the poor performance and shameful rating in the Press Freedom Index.
One cardinal guarantee that this constitution grants is a whole chapter on freedom of expression, freedom of the media, and protection of rights of persons in the media. This fundamental right ensures that the media operates independently without fear of censorship and, of course, no intimidation. We are, however, aware that under President Akufo-Addo and, of course, Mahmoud Bawumia, the press cannot be said to be as free as they were before. On all the key indexes of media freedoms, Ghana has actually performed even poorer. You are the state of the realm. Be responsible and hold the government and other powerful institutions accountable. Provide us the people with accurate and unbiased information and act as a watchdog to protect our democracy and human rights.
She concluded by further throwing light on the former President John Dramani Mahama intends to implement should he be given a nod in the December polls.
We can also boost productivity and create more jobs, particularly in the hospitality, transportation, and manufacturing sectors. This will lead to a significant reduction in unemployment and underemployment in the country. Moreover, the 24-hour economy will help Ghana transition into an export-led economy by increasing production and, of course, the capacity of those who are involved in it. This will also open up various international markets, demand for goods, and, of course, services. The Upper West region will certainly not be left out of this beautiful policy and, of course, its impact on the young people who live here.
Board Chairman of Somali FM, Alhaji Abdul Rashid Mohamud, was grateful to the Upper West community for the support, which he said has spurred them on to work above themselves to bring smiles to the faces of the people.
With the guidance and support of our distinguished guests, we are inspired to continue reaching greater heights and exploring new horizons in the world of radio broadcasting. Today, as we celebrate the past, we also look forward to a promising future that lies ahead of our beloved radio station.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Days of the coming beauty. Days of the coming beauty. When the scattered sons and the daughters of Mother Africa shall reunite in the blaze of joy.
Now, still in Wa, let's move to Nadoli Kalio district, where the Director of Health, Phoebe Balanguye-Timi, has bemoaned increasing deaths, especially among the youth, due to non-communicable diseases. Commissioning the St. Anne Medical Center in Duong, she highlighted the rise in cases of hypertension, diabetes, and cancer, leading to fatalities. She wants health staff to prioritize education on disease prevention. Here's another report by Rafik Salam.
The medical facility, a brainchild of the Duong community, emerged as an essential upgrade from the mixed structures of the renowned Duong Bone Centers Clinic. The Bone Centers Clinic known for its traditional bone setting practice, passed down through generations, often faced limitations in providing the immediate medical needs of their clients beyond fractures, leading to complications. The commissioning of the St. Anne Medical Center is therefore in line with the government policy to merge traditional and modern medical practices. The two-phase project aims to integrate modern infrastructure with traditional practices, providing comprehensive healthcare services. National Chairman of Drone Youth Development Association, DAIDA, in handing over of the clinic, expressed optimism and highlighted the center's potential.
Indeed, we are delighted that this facility will fully serve the healthcare needs of the people of Duong and the surrounding communities in particular, and the people of Ghana in general. Before handing over the facility, we would like to exhort the Diocesan Health Services Trust to work earnestly to transform the St. Anne Medical Center into a world-class health facility, where traditional and orthodox medical health practitioners will collaborate and cooperate to deliver quality health services that will meet the needs of the people it serves. Our gratitude also goes to Equal Opportunity Fund Netherlands, and particularly to Mrs. Artsmandes, as well as Wild Geese Foundation, who accepted our proposal to build the facility.
Physician assistant in charge of the St. Anne's Medical Center, David Edu Mensah, recounted the journey from inception to operational efficiency of the facility. Detailing the center's achievements and challenges, Edu Mensah acknowledged the dedicated staff and donors' invaluable support, emphasizing the facility's transformational efforts.
Our initial challenges taught us valuable lessons, and through continuous training and collaboration, we have become adept at handling various aspects of facility management. As we reflect on our progress, it's evident that our initial lack of experience has transformed into a valuable reservoir of knowledge, contributing to continuous improvement of our performance and the overall success of the facility.
The Nodulo Keleo District Director of Health Services, Phoebe Balagunyentimi, urged the health staff to center their education on promotion and prevention, as hosts of young people are dying from non-communicable diseases.
It is such a worry. We have been seeing a rising trend in hypertensive cases, diabetes, and we are seeing the cancers going on the ascendancy. And it has spared not even the health workers. We have lost quite a number of health workers. So let us also focus on health promotion and prevention. Being a hospital does not mean that you want to load your facility. If they are healthy enough, they can be productive. So if there is low utilization, try to find out whether they are treating themselves at home, doing self-medication, or visiting spiritualists or whatever, other than thinking that the facilities must always be full. We want them to be healthy.
Representing the Catholic Health Services Trust, Reverend Sister Juliana Lamise Akayati lauded the community's dedication and underscored the diocese's commitment to its success. Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam, Duong.
Now, Education Minister Yao Osei-Duchum is urging the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission to collaborate with tertiary institutions to align university curricula for a smooth transition of students from STEM and vocational backgrounds, particularly those studying AI courses like robotics and computer sciences. Emphasizing the hands-on training students receive in these fields during pre-tertiary education, the minister highlighted the importance of facilitating a seamless transition to tertiary institutions to fully explore their potential. Dr. Duchum made these remarks at the Future of AI and ICT in Education conference here in Accra.
Development of technology and artificial intelligence in Africa, its impact on everyday life cannot be underestimated. Ghana's Education Minister, Dr. Yao Osei-Duchum, is confident the introduction of AI and advanced technology in the Ghanaian education system will improve educational outcomes.
So AI is critical for proficiency in various subjects. But beyond that, I think the most critical aspect of it is that it can be a teaching tool. And AI can predict, tell the teacher, focus on this, and the student will do better. And I think it allows for us to really get rid of learning poverty. We are doing some great things in this country, but AI will give us a very important mechanism to really do much better and catch up and make sure we bridge the learning gap between us and other developed countries.
The minister also charged the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC, to work in collaboration with tertiary institutions to realign the university curriculum to ensure a seamless accommodation of students from STEM and vocational institutions who are learning AI courses.
What is happening in the high school space? You go to Accra High and you see that they are doing engineering sciences. We have new STEM schools that are functioning, from Abomusu to Pasempe to all these places. Children are inventing and flying drones like at Afia Kubiampim. Our tertiary institutions have to now begin to look at how they accommodate the learning needs of these new students who are using their minds and using their hands in designing robots and doing so many unique things. So we have to, GTEC has to work with tertiary education institutions. Already NACA is designing new high school curriculum, which has involved the universities. So the idea is to make sure that we have a seamless transition from high school to the university, so far as the ICT field is concerned.
The conference on the impact of artificial intelligence and ICT on Ghana's education was organized by the Education Ministry in collaboration with Yonsei University of Korea. It is to deliberate on how Ghana can learn from the Korean experience to develop the Ghanaian system. Jang Sai Kim is the head of research for the university.
Korea was the poorest country in the world in 1960s and 70s. And Ghana was much advanced than Korea in 1970s. But now Korea has been one of the leading countries in economy and society in the world level. But we believe that our experiences and knowledge and insight can be shared with our colleague in Ghana. So that's why we are here.
On how Ghana can position herself to reap the full benefits of AI and technology, he believes the training must start at the basic levels.
Well, today I invited many high school students. They are our future. Then we need to focus on junior high school and primary school students. And when they grow up, they will use ICT. Just as we use a fork and knife, they will use ICT and AI. And they will make their own way of strategic development in Ghana society.
With this collaboration between Ghana and the Republic of Korea, Ghana is hopeful of leveraging the Korean experience and expertise to develop a sustainable education in AI and ICT in order to reap the full benefits.
And that will be all for this morning's news on the AM show. Up next is Benjamin Akaku. You don't want to miss the news review. Keep watching. This is the AM show.
Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for the news review. And this segment is always brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're doing so again this morning. And here's what they're offering you. If you're a man, especially if you've hit 40 and above, do you know the state of your prostate? That's why you should make your way to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic and get yourself screened. If you're a woman, well, every woman has the tendency of developing fibroids. The statistics show that practically all women will have some fibroids at some point. It just may not develop. Like I always say, it's like those of us who use glasses. Everybody has some eye defect, minute. It may not develop to the point where you need glasses, medicated lenses like I have. And that's why I'm proffering to you this morning, whether it's for your fertility issues or your prostate concerns, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra, they're at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. There's Kumasi Kronoma Bwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiamanzama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. We're in the political season. Well, from the mid-year point to the end, it's going to be butu-butu, like we say in our local parlance. But for now, the parliamentary primaries of the MPP are in the offing on the 27th day of this month, and that's why you see a lot of them coming through. This morning, we're hosting for the newspaper review the NPP's parliamentary candidate hopeful for Asante Achim North, Kwesi Kwarteng Frimpong. I didn't know about the Frimpong in this gentleman's name, but he is our guest this morning. Mr. Frimpong, Bra Frimpong. You know Bra Frimpong in P-pop, no, not Kweku Frimpong, Bra Frimpong. There's medical, and then there's Kweku Frimpong. Yes. Was it Asante Achim North? What they are saying about?
Everything is fine.
Ayo. And Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, thank you, and many happy returns. I hope you are doing good.
I could be better. I am okay, but I could be better.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Should I elaborate, or you want me to stop?
No, it's fine. I mean,
no, let me elaborate a bit. So,
Benjamin,
the tariffs on electricity. Charlie, the concerns I get out there, I've just noticed that nowadays when I purchase 200 cedis, I said thought before I realize one AC, one AC because where I am, honestly, you can't.
Benjamin, you are fortunate to afford an air conditioner.
Let me explain to you. Okay. I have a fan that I've had to give out.
I'm using a fan.
Yes, I have a fan that I've had to give out. I was using the fan, but I realized that I don't know whether you've ever experienced that thing where it's pretty powerful. No matter where you put it, you start feeling some pain around your rib area. Have you experienced that?
That's for the DBs. Those of us from the village.
It's not for some of us with allergies and the rest. It is.
Those of us from Domiabra, we are capable of managing the situation.
I have actually had to give out the fan to someone who didn't even have anything, living in my same community. You get it. And the person didn't, and the heat. And this person was with a child. So I looked at it and said, no, I'll rather sacrifice, though I'm going to pay more. So that person actually gets to rest in some coolness, if you like. But Charlie, now that I have given that out, and I am using the AC, hey, ain't no big joke.
I didn't know that would be my welcome package.
No, when I saw you, I just said that no. I must run this by you, Charlie. Anyway, it is what it is.
I mean, it generally when it comes to tariffs and taxation and whatever issues, I mean, it's of great concern to everybody. But I mean, bottom line is, we all agree fundamentally that whichever way we need to widen our tax net, widen our tax base, so that at the end of the day we are also able to not charge citizens too much, and then we are at the same time able to make sure that we get the basic things for development. So I agree with you. Generally, all over the world, nobody likes to pay taxes. I mean, within that context, particularly when there's increase. So I agree with you. It's of concern to all of us. Our bottom line is that the state needs to develop, and you and I still have to be patriotic and pay our taxes.
Well, good to have you join the conversation again. We'll get into the papers shortly, but I'd like to find out from you, Asante Achim North.
Yeah.
It's a pretty, I wouldn't say controversial constituency, because it's gone the way of the MPP since as long as I can remember. So it's practically a safe seat if you're in the MPP. Why target that seat? What is it that, I know there are a number of members of parliament who are no longer going back, who have opted out, and there are some who are staying on, and the rest to continue leading the MPP front in parliament. But why Asante Achim North?
I mean, obviously, they say charity begins at home. And at every point, if you have the opportunity to serve, definitely you want to serve your people. So it's more rational to begin serving from home. And I mean, if you look at it critically, I am from Domiabra, a village within the Asante Achim North district. And that's where my mother comes from, my father comes from. So if I have the opportunity to get, some level of exposure, build some few relationships and connections, add up some knowledge, and I have that opportunity to serve, why not? That should be the primary area that I should focus on, particularly when I have the opportunity to work within the Ministry of Education and understand the basic rudiments of education, and also understand that there is always a link between education and socio-economic transformation. If I want to take any initiative to use education as a medium to transform my family, my people, definitely I have to begin from my constituency. And that's even the more reason why I see that the right time for the vision is now. We have to use that connection, that marriage between education and socio-economic transformation to transform Asante Achim.
What makes you the ideal candidate, do you think? Tell us a bit about your leadership. You've been a leader all the way from school, till now, and then you've come to the point of speaking for the education ministry, and all that. Tell us a bit about what you represent as a person.
I think orphan at a very young age of 8, raised by paternal parents. I remember that time myself, when I was a student, my father was also a student, so definitely my grandparents have to fend for both of us. And had the opportunity to go to Konongo, then from Konongo, I moved to UDS. But I mean, clearly, those of us who knows me from Asante Achim knows that I'm from a very deprived environment, from a very deprived home, made up by just basic 2 things. One, the God factor, and of course, education. So as I speak with you in a space of, I mean, I was 31 just last December, but because of education, at a very young age of 28, I had the opportunity to speak for the Ministry of Education, the Minister for Education.
I could have been deceived to think that we were on the same level in terms of age, but I see that there's a gap.
24, I had the opportunity to also speak. I also lead the whole University Student Association of Ghana. I've also built my capacity in many areas in terms of even the education ladder. I have read health science education from UDS. Also bachelor's of law from GIMPA. I've the master's in public administration from TEC, master's in international law from Legon, postgraduate diploma in occupational health and safety from GIMPA. I have a certificate in PR from Institute of Public Relations, and God willing, I hope to be called to the bar this October. So a young man from nowhere, often at a very young age of 8, have the opportunity of getting educated, and now can count at least some number of certificates, which of course is a plus and adds up to my knowledge base. And the fact that based on that, with the experience that I've gotten, I feel that I really have to also invest in people using education. And I mean, also having the opportunity to work within the Ministry of Education. If you look at, for instance, if you go to Bosomtwe now, Bosomtwe constituency where my boss is from, within a space of 7 years where the MPP came to power, Bosomtwe alone has about 7 senior high schools. Within this same space, the Minister for Education, Dr. Jose Duchum, is talking about producing about 200 engineers in Bosomtwe.
Some would also say that is also a bit of bias. I know how much he's doing in the Bosomtwe constituency. There are places that also need secondary schools, senior high schools that have practically nothing. You're aware of that.
Yeah, but whichever way, it's a positive trend. Whichever way is a positive trend.
That the overconcentration may not necessarily. No, I know what is being done. It's not that I don't know. In STEM and other things, I know what he's doing for those who want to read engineering.
The point is that the point.
But I'm just averting your mind.
I'm not saying that everything is concentrated in Bosomtwe. What I'm saying is that I am using Bosomtwe as a test case. That if you look at the massive development that has been introduced in Bosomtwe, of course, which is anchored on education, we want to do the same for Asante Achim North, and make sure that in a space of 8 years, in a space of 12 years, or even in a space of 4 years, that anyone has the opportunity to serve as a member of parliament. I mean, we should also be talking about producing, say, 1,000 engineers, producing, for instance, 1,000 doctors, producing 1,000 nurses and what have you. So the whole vision and the point that makes Kwesi Kwarteng unique as ideal candidate is that he is trumpeting on the cause of education as a bait of transforming the fortunes of Asante Achim, particularly in terms of the human resource base within the constituency. And I mean, if I'm allowed to end, all over the world, education has been the trump card for transformation. And so anybody who sings the chorus of education is somebody that the people will embrace. I'm sure that's why if you look at all the polls and any other research that is going on, we really have a very strong base within the constituency.
There's a trend where some of you in the ministries, agencies, departments are all trying to become parliamentarians. From the Ghana Library Authority boss to deputy this, deputy that, acting this, acting that. I'd like to find out from you, why is that trend? And some have posited profit that it is because some of you know that it's a very dicey election that you could lose, so you want to position yourselves so that whether your government stays in power or not, you still have some way of continuing the political journey, so to speak. Why do you want to go to parliament? Because I look at it honestly, a lot of parliamentarians on both sides, NDC and MPP, and sometimes I scratch my head and ask, okay, so these people, why really are they in parliament? You look at their performance, you look at how many times they are attending parliament, you look at how many times they are saying anything, you look at what contributions they make on the floor, you look at the entirety of what you would think a parliamentarian would do, you look at how they vote and everything, and you ask yourself, why do people even want to go to parliament? What is in this that excites you?
I mean, per the extension of that logic, I mean, how will you also answer a question of why a lot of people also went for the NDC nomination? Is it also a case that because they also know they are coming to power, and for that matter, a lot of them also have to go for positions, and then maybe when the party gets into power, get ministerial appointment?
But that is shared. It is same with you in the NDP.
So whichever way, the reverse is true for any of us. I mean, so the point is that people may have their own dispositions, their own orientations, their visions why they want to serve. I can speak for myself.
Right.
I mean, I've made it clear that if you look at the background where I'm coming from, I have seen something that has really worked for me. And that is what I've currently instituted even within my place. As I speak with you, my plan has always been to produce 15 versions of Kwesi Kwarteng within the next 15 years in my family. I can speak for myself because that's the vision.
In your family?
Yes, in my family. Yes,
Okay.
I want to produce 15 versions of Kwesi Kwarteng. But I mean, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. I feel that at every point when God gives you an opportunity, it's not necessarily for you, it's for your family, it's for the people around you, for your constituents, and it's for the entire nation. So I can make a case for myself, maybe in terms of the numbers. We should even be happy, and people like you should even be encouraging all of us that it demonstrates that our democracy is growing, people are participating in governance, people are taking...
It's going to be two ways. It's a two-pronged affair.
If
you have a lot of people going into politics, claiming to serve. I mean, let's be honest, Kwesi Kwarteng. A lot of those who have ended up in our brand of politics, in our brand of democracy, claiming they are serving, have ended up serving themselves. And that is why we are where we are, whether it's NDC or NCP. So when we ask these valid questions, it is never to say that there is nobody. I always cite Kwadwo Banredu.
Yeah.
Fine gentleman. We saw him in action. We saw a lot of what he did. He's one person that I'll always be able to go to and say, this gentleman, this and that. Kwadwo Banredu attended an event where someone had just come and was hounding the young lady who was writing names because the young lady hadn't added honorable when starting with his name. Kwadwo Banredu came and she was beginning to write honorable. He was like, well, what is this? Write my name. That is the difference. It's like night and day, and you have both seeking political office. And I think, if I may, those who are seeking it for whatever reasons, being more. So if you will allow me. If you look at the deliverables of our democracy, especially parliament and the way voting is done, I can cite so many things, e-levy, this, that. And then you look at what we get as citizens. I believe I speak for the people when I say that it's not necessarily delivered. And oftentimes, go out there on the street. If I could walk you out with a camera behind us, go on the street right here, and ask people, how do you feel about leaders? Do you think they serve us or they serve themselves by and large? I'm sure you know what the answers would be. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I tend to agree with you in a lot of the assertions that you've made. As a people, I've always maintained that definitely we are not where we have to be, but where we used to be too, we are definitely not there. I mean, whichever way, there has been some significant improvement. And I mean, just like you rightly claimed, if you also pick cameras and go around, you may also get people testifying about great leadership from political advice. And if you look at, for instance, if you even want to use Nanado's administration as a test case, yes, we may not have gotten everything right, but definitely where we used to be too, we are definitely not there. But the point is, if you do not encourage a lot of people into leadership, how do you produce the boundaries of our time? Are you getting the point? If you don't encourage the young Davies like the Kwesi Kwarteng and the young guys coming up, how do you produce the boundaries? So it is even the more reason why you have to encourage particularly young people. I mean, if you go to Asante Akyem, for instance, clearly, for the past years or so, after the demise of the Honorable late Kojo Banredu, you realize that in terms of the mileage that we have, the respect that was attached to the constituency, the dignity that was attached to our constituency, even if you look at the voter trends, you could see that it's rather decreasing, whilst ordinarily we're expected to increase. If you look at, for instance, 2020 elections, for instance, NDC was able to increase in vote for almost 4,000 votes difference. Today, we are talking about an independent candidate who has also declared his intention to come. So for us within the MPP, it is a very crucial time to say that, yes, we have to restore to the days of the Honorable Kojo Banredu, get the unity that we deserve, get the development that we deserve, get the trust and confidence that we deserve, and even save the party. So yes, I mean, largely, you have to look at it from the wider perspective that bottom line is that leadership has to occasion development. But for us in the MPP, it's also an opportunity to save our seats, at the same time making sure that we restore the dignity that we had during the Banredu's time in the constituency. And I mean, hold and behold, believe you me, by 2025, we are going to get a new version of Banredu from Asante Akyem.
All right, so saith Kwesi Kwarteng Frimpong. We'll get back to your political ambitions, but let's get into the papers now and take a look at what they have to share with us. The Daily Guide is where I'll start. Akufo-Addo on top of corruption fight. That's according to Freddie Wasimeu Blay. I actually saw something. I actually shared it. Let me see whether I can get to it. Something he said that I found rather curious. But other headlines, and this was on myjoyonline.com yesterday, so I'll just find it later and share. But I invested over 1.4 million Ghana cedis in men's gold. That's according to a witness. Bawumia will erode NDC's northern foothold. That's the claim there. Cozy in record donation to kids. There's also bedbug spray kills 3 siblings at Aswase. This was so. It is so pathetic when I read the story.
It's sad.
Then we need to focus. Ofori says so. Richard Ofori says that. Yes, I found the story. I'll get to it when I need to. Fan attacks Stars coach. We know what happened, and he was handed over to the Ivorian police. We lacked concentration. Jordan Ayew says. Xavi begs after Real thrashing, and that is after Barcelona. Our very own Patrick Otulate Gomez's Barcelona were humped, thumped, thrashed, humiliated, basically disintegrated at the hands of Real Madrid, with Vinicius Jr. bagging 3 goals and doing the shoe, and of course another goal added there. Sad one for Barcelona in Saudi Arabia. And so that is that. I'll start with the story about the Asawase bedbug spray. 3 siblings have been reported dead after spending a night in their grandmother's house at Asawase in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. The 3, including their grandmother, reportedly inhaled chemicals from an insecticide intended to rid their room of bedbugs while they slept. Police reports disclosed that the deceased lived with their mother at Pakoso, a community in the Asokore-Mampo municipality. The report indicated that on December 28, 2023, they took advantage of the festive season to visit their grandmother at Asawase. An uncle of the children, identified as Anthony France, reportedly used an insecticide to spray a room in which the siblings were supposed to spend the night to kill bedbugs and other insects. Unfortunately, the 3 children and their 66-year-old grandmother named Ekia Jabena, inhaled the poisonous chemicals throughout the night, thereby making them very weak and unresponsive the next morning. The 4 victims were then rushed to the Manshia Government Hospital for medical attention. It goes on, but sad, really sad. And I've always said that, especially for those who use these concoctions, chemicals that sometimes are fashioned here without any, some of them, you look on them, you may see FDA, this and that. I always have my suspicions. Some of them smell too strong. They have, and mind you, things that can kill some insects, and especially rats, can easily kill human beings. That's why a lot of these scientific testing is conducted on mice. But this, when I heard it yesterday, it just broke my heart.
It's very unfortunate. I mean, yesterday too, I saw it on social media, and a friend posted these 3 cases, and I inquired, and it was very unfortunate. First of all, my condolences to the family, but I feel there is no measure of compensation of even words that can actually even calm them down. But the point is that it all boils down to caution, and we all having to be careful when we have to use some of these things. Because, I don't know, a lot of these things have inscriptions written on, but even my concern has to do with those that has been written in sometimes Chinese languages that we do not understand.
That is actually against the law.
Yeah, that's actually against
it. Must be in a language where the people who are residents can actually read. And definitely everything that is of concern should be there so that the people know what they're doing.
But I mean,
but it's a failure again of the system, slippages that we allow.
Exactly. But of course, in terms of this particular case, we do not have the full facts, so we are unable to speculate. But I mean, point is that is very unfortunate. If you go and spend Christmas and starting the year on such a bad note is something that nobody would ever want to wish for the family. So yes, once again, my condolences to the family.
Yeah, but you tell yourself, okay, so education-wise, how do we educate people on the use of these things? Look, we're talking about this, aphrodisiacs.
Yeah.
You see them selling them in the hot sun. Some of them, there are things that, medications and other things, you shouldn't even be. There are certain temperatures. You see people selling all kinds of concoctions. People are buying them. I remember at the Takrabe, is it the regional hospital or something? I remember I had a relative who had an ailment, and I was there. Look, I saw a gentleman. I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. You see how parched land, how when there's famine, sometimes you see land and it has cracked like that.
Drought, severe one.
Drought. Yeah. This person's skin was basically like that from head to toe. And there was pus coming out, so cracks all over. Do you know what had happened? Apparently the person was down with some sort of fever. This person, they had taken him to this local whatever. They had given him a herbal remedy. I think the person reacted to it, whether allergy or something, from inside out. That young man, he wasn't up to 20, died. I'm talking of 2009. I still remember, and the stench and I just felt for the boy. But what can you do? Once you've ingested it, and all these things are still happening.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, I schooled in Tamale, and if you look at Tamale, for instance, if you get the data from the Tamale Teaching Hospital, one of the leading causes of death is kidney failure, and it's because a lot of the local folks trust in these herbal medicines. I'm not against the use of herbal medicine, but particularly when you have it unregulated in terms of the dosage and what have you. Even me, it happened to me before. I recall somebody recommended a herbal medicine to me, and when you look at the herbal medicine, clearly you could see that they've actually combined some unreasonable dosages of even these orthodox medicines and put them there. So you take them, you get the effect within a very short time. But of course, in terms of the body's metabolism to be able to even clear it from the system, then it's
damaging your kidneys, your liver, and other things.
So it's a very great concern. But like you rightly put it all boils down to education. And if you look at...
And regulation.
And regulation, yes. And regulation. But you see, the point is that if people are educated and they know what they are taking in, I mean, sometimes even the regulation will even, be a secondary issue, even though it's also quite relevant. Because at the end of the day, it's just like when you have laws to maintain order. And definitely you still get people going beyond the law. Because they are, in terms of general performance on some laws are very low. If you look at, for instance, traffic regulation is poor. If you look at this whole subject matter that we are discussing in terms of this aphrodisiac usage, these herbal medicines, these traditional medicines and what have you, is very poor. And as a country, we need to sit up. And for me, Benjamin, it's not really even a subject of how do you call it, whether or not even government has failed or something. It has more to do with state institutions must work. And like I agree, all boils down to leadership.
Let's quickly make tracks so we can get into other papers. Bawumia will erode NDC's northern foothold. Managing Director of the Intercity STC Coaches Limited, Nana Komia, stated that the election of Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia is the best thing for the ruling MPP to hold on to power. According to him, Dr. Bawumia possesses the magic wand that the party needs to break the 8-year cycle of power alternations between the MPP and the NDC. Then we go to page 6, and Akufo-Addo on top of corruption fight. That's according to Freddie Blay. He has said the Akufo-Addo government has put in more effort than any other government to fight corruption. He also said that Ghana is not the only country grappling with corruption. We put it up on Joy News on Facebook. You should have seen the reactions. So this is akin to former President Kufuor, a man I deeply respect, saying corruption has been with us since the days of Adam. But I think this takes a different tincture. What do you make of these two stories? My reflections on the corruption bit. Yeah. In my estimation, from Afrobarometer, CDD, the Ghana Statistical Service, having collaborations with UN agencies, with that one was not perception, it was fact, okay, from different institutions in Ghana. Even if you want to look at the Corruption Perception Index, we don't appear to have made any
significant improvements.
I wouldn't even, not even significant, because we've actually fallen in some regard, and it's tapered off at a certain point. The OSP, if you look at how much we've spent on him, on that office, okay, and what we've reaped, I ask myself this whole bit about we're on top of corruption and we have made progress. I don't really see it. Then, since I want you to react to the Bawumia who erode NDC's northern foothold, there are also surveys that point to the fact that if you look at the trend of the MPP's voting in the northern belt of the country now, many more regions, about 5 of them, because Savannah and all that have been added. Actually, that is not the fact. The voting patterns in the northern belt of the country for the MPP have not actually increased. In some instances, they have even dwindled. How do you react to these two? Corruption, and then Bawumia will erode NDC's northern foothold.
Yeah, I mean, like you rightly indicated and quoted from our President Kufuor, he said, I mean, corruption has been with us since the ages of Adam. Of course, it's not also a license to suggest that leadership must not do anything about it. But if you look at, for instance, generally our performance on corruption as a people, broadly, I even take it that most of the initiatives that we undertake to fight corruption, granted that we've not even had the full impact, a lot of them, even symbolically, as to the fight of fighting corruption. For instance, if you look at the MPP, for instance, in terms of fighting the fight against corruption, definitely you may have to put systems that removes a lot of the human interface that really, cascade into corrupt activities. Because, for instance, whilst I'm here with you, if we have any engagement, unless it backfires, and you give me anything to influence me as a public officer, which system is to be able to detect that the two of us, we had such an engagement? So it is even the more reason why a lot of our engagements, we have to build systems that apparently stops the human interface and minimizes the human interface within our dealings. If you go to the port, you are aware of the paperless port system. If you go to DVLA, we cannot deny the fact that today, when you go to DVLA, a lot of the engagements are not through the Goro boys and the payments of monies and what have you. If you go to passport for office, for instance, a lot of the applications these days you have to pay in the bank and, of course, do a lot of even the processes online. So yes,
we're also aware of the SML situation where apparently the work is being done already. SML is supposedly doing no work, but we are spending 700 plus million Ghana cedis.
I do not.
Since you've referenced these ones, we should also reference.
That's what I'm saying, that I made a face.
But you followed the story. We followed the story in total. So if you want us to go there, we can.
No, I'm saying that when it comes to that story, I do not have the full facts. I'm unable to speak to it. But I'm saying that whichever way, symbolically, if you want to fight corruption, what you do is to build systems that more or less demotivate people to engage in corruption. Okay. And I've within just some few minutes, I've been able to cite some of the examples in those systems that we built. If you go to advanced countries, all over the world, it is not, you see, everybody with the right environment, the right place, the right opportunity is eligible to be corrupt because we are driven by our interests.
Everywhere in the world,
but
people would be corrupt if you gave them the chance. Which is why in advanced democracies, they minimize it to, they put it such that you can't.
How do you minimize? You minimize it through the building of robust systems.
Yeah.
And I have given you instances.
We don't have those systems.
No, I have given.
We have intentionally failed to create those systems.
Today.
I put it to you that as politicians, we intentionally failed to put in place. We have the OSP.
No, I am also
and we made it. We created a system where the OSP cannot.
I mean, you elected to only view it from a certain angle or certain perspective. And I'm also suggesting to you, but if you look at our general performance on the fight against corruption, particularly when it comes to the institutions, the robust institutions that we've built as a people, to be able to demotivate people from engaging in corruption, we cannot also, look into our faces and say that we failed. Yes, we are not where we are.
So have we succeeded in the fight against corruption?
There has been progress, if you ask me.
There has?
There has been progress. But of course, we still need to do more as a people. We still need to do more as a people. That I agree.
Let's quickly look at some of the headlines from the Daily Statesman, and then we'll wrap with economy.
Very well.
And get out of here.
Very well. But I think you wanted me to give a bite on the Dr. Baumia's.
Oh, yeah. I thought you had.
No,
No, go ahead.
Of course, if you see, the point is that.
But what I'm saying is based on facts, voting patterns from 1992 all the way to the last election. A report I read, if I could find it, I would have.
It's also because since 92, we've not had a candidate who apparently is.
So they are putting it side by side with, as a vice.
So the Baumia's factor. No. But you don't vote for a vice president as your president.
But wasn't that part of the influence when he was selected?
It may be some of the considerations, but that is very persuasive. If you want to look at conditions precedent in terms of making decisions on the presidential candidate you have to vote for, it largely rests on the candidate, not his vice.
The person he's going against is also from the north.
No, but I'm saying that for the first time, we are presenting a candidate from the north.
Okay.
So our expectation is that
I get the point.
And of course, you see, then it moves beyond even the tribal lines or the geographical lines. Then it has now the whole conversation has now to be based on records. And we have the records to be able to.
All right. Let's quickly do the Daily Statesman. Our time is actually up. I want us to sneak in a few things, and then the Daily Statesman. Yeah. Which story? You can give us the headlines and maybe just focus on one of the stories.
Oh, my own friend and sister stories here. Akusa Menu MVP cares about child education. I'm more interested in education as a base of socio-economic transformation, and that's what I've started at my place. If you come to Asante Achim today, of course, to complement government's efforts in terms of boosting literacy through some private arrangements and private initiative. I've also been able to donate a number of books worth more than 500,000 Ghana cedis to the people of Asante Achim. So I think if you look at what Akusa Menu is in her constituency, it's thanks to what I'm also doing. Now, all the leaders coming up, particularly the youth, have now come to the realization that the only bit to transform our people, to transform our societies, to transform our communities is anchored on education. And of course, that has been the trump card of this government. The basic level up to the tertiary level, access very widened in terms of quality, significantly improved. And when there is access, when there is quality, the next component has to be relevance. And the relevance has to be the impact of education on our socio-economic transformation. And we are very hopeful that as the people will get there. Because today, our gross tertiary enrollment ratio has moved from 18 to 20%. We are using the leapfrog approach, and we are hoping to get to 20% within the coming 40% within the coming years. And that automatically will indicate that the country is going to develop, just like all over the world, every country that has a 40% might develop.
There's a last bit I have for you, so let me just get through this. Economy Times this morning, Ghana cedi to weaken. Ghana's fiat currency, the cedi, may continue to weaken if authorities fail to clinch a deal with the external creditors aimed at restructuring some $5.4 billion in debt, which would qualify the country in securing the second tranche of the extended credit facility from the International Monetary Fund. That's the detail. Bank of Ghana authorizes 16 brokers to operate on FX market, and VAT on electricity. Ghanaians go after government amidst silent load shedding. Those are the stories. To wrap, just this, I want you to talk about Kwesi Kwarteng or Kwesi for Mpuntuo in Asante Atem North, and then free SHS, review versus improvement. What's the difference? Just those two. You can tell me about the free SHS bit quickly, then your last comments, Kwesi for Mpuntuo.
I mean, if you look at the free SHS conversation, the government position is very clear. That at every point, if you have a policy, what you need to sustain that policy is to significantly improve the policy. And that has also, you have always...
Because we are really pressed for time, do we need a review of free SHS?
I mean, it depends on what definition of review that Mr. Mahama is talking about.
No, I didn't bring in Mr. Mahama. I'm saying, do we need a review of free SHS from where you sit? I've heard members of your party say we need a review. A review can involve so many things. I'm not bringing in Mr. Mahama. Do we need a review?
No, that's why I wanted to situate it in the proper context, because within the context of review that I am aware, at every point the policy has been reviewed.
How has it been reviewed?
And of course, if you look at how do you call it?
The IMF brought to bear something suggesting that the net was too wide when we went to the IMF. Submitting our program.
What do you mean by the net was too wide?
They said that it had to be, I've forgotten the exact wording, they said it had to be narrowed to meet specific needs, specific, not a whole mass. That's in the IMF report.
What the IMF also failed, you brought the IMF issue, what the IMF also failed is to...
It failed to say.
To also acknowledge is that, unlike, for instance, America, where you have the data to be able to know that this is the income of this parent, that is the income of this parent. In Ghana, as of now, we do not have that very concrete data. So until then, who shall
At least you know of those who have come into our studios and said that I don't need it. I can pay for it. My children don't need it. How about those people?
No, I mean,
if we wanted those statistics, are you telling me that the Ghana Statistical Service can't provide us with that data? Especially after the latest census?
I'm saying that these are isolated incidents. But you see, Benjamin,
I'm saying Ghana Statistical Service,
Benjamin, hold on.
They have data. Are you saying we can't fall on that?
I'm saying that as a country, we don't have the full complement of such data as of now, because the point is that...
So why don't you start working with what you have?
Benjamin, let me learn. For instance, if you go to Makola, for instance, you are likely to look into a Makola's woman's face and say that because she works in the market, probably she doesn't have money.
It's common knowledge that they are wealthy. It's common knowledge.
Yes. But no, it's rather common knowledge that civil servants are the people that government is able to track their salary and their income and their taxes, and for that matter,
everyone knows that Makola women.
The point I am making. What about that orange seller? You see, the point I am making is that in a very pluralistic informal economy, it is often difficult, right, to be able to track the salaries and income of people, and so for that matter, you are unable to decide that a person qualifies for government package in terms of free SHS, or B person qualifies for it, or C person qualifies for it.
Okay, so let me put my question this way. Moving forward, 2024, getting into 2025 and all of that, do we need some review of free SHS? Do we?
What I can say is that we'll continue to improve the policy.
You'll continue to improve the policy?
Yes,
if you review, is it not meant to bring about improvement? And of course, for those of you watching, you know why I'm pinning him down on this. The former President Mahama has called for a review of free SHS, time without number. Some members of the MPP have called for a review. Recently, the Education Minister, Dr. Osei Duchum, said they didn't need a review, they needed an improvement. And people were asking him, like, 200, 300 messages. What's the difference? If you review, don't you improve? What do you review for? To make less good?
No, but I don't know. If you agree that the review at the end of the day will end in an improvement, then what is the point in questioning?
So why then was he questioning? He was saying the bone of contention is he is saying we don't need a review, we need an improvement. What's the difference?
No, but if you agree on principle that a review will lead to an improvement, then on principle the review has already been done at every point.
Please, when is the key
and the data? I'm coming. And the data speaks for itself, because if you look at, how do you call it, the WASI trends, I mean, within the past 8 years, consistently, it is only the free SHS batch that you have at least 50% of them.
I will not be tempted to go into that. That is a whole conversation for another day.
Saying that,
but point made.
I'm saying that you don't fix something that is not broken. That is a basic fact.
Oh, so free SHS, there's nothing broken about free SHS? Do you know, only yesterday, I was receiving images, in fact, because you brought this up, let me go there. Because you brought this up, a gentleman who has recently sent his child into school and they can't get beds, the schools are, so he sends me, let me just send you this image. I don't want you to see the person's name, but just so you don't think I am manufacturing anything. These are beds being hauled in. Even before this, I had seen, and he says, I don't think enough is being done to aid both the secondary and universities with a surge in number of students. I had to buy a bunk bed for my daughter, and he's the second person telling me this within a space of days. When she went to SS this year, I didn't do that. If I didn't do that, she would have to put her mattress on the floor and sleep. The government needs to up its game in providing the enabling environment for both the teaching and learning atmosphere. Then he sent me that shot, how people are taking advantage of that. He says, the amenities are just not enough and the heads can't complain because if you do, you'll be summoned to answer why. I know for a fact that one headmistress of a girls' school, I can't mention, was summoned, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to add because I don't want to go into that, because she refused to accept the number of students they wanted to give her, but in the long run, she had to succumb. You're telling me this is not a problem?
So you think
we've had a time without number. Is this a problem or not?
So you think this is occasioned by the fact that there is free component?
It's occasioned by the numbers.
No, you think because it's free?
Is it occasioned by the numbers or not? So have the numbers gone up?
Hold on. So what about if you take them Tamamoto way? There are potholes, and we still pay taxes. There is no free component in the fact that we pay taxes to maintain our roads. If you go to the hospitals, there are instances where there are no beds. So are you suggesting that it's because the NHIS is not working?
It is failures in the system.
If there are failures in the system,
we could provide beds.
Let me tell you. If you are going to your house and there is a pothole, what you do is that you fix that pothole. You don't block the whole road and say that, well, under the umbrella of review. What I'm saying is that nobody's saying that we are running a perfect system. Even before free SHS, some of these challenges were there.
Okay.
These challenges was not occasioned, was not given birth by the free SHS. What did the free SHS do? Free SHS gave opportunity for, in terms of access, for more students to go to school. At the same time, increasing quality, which has been evident.
Okay.
So that there is an impact of social.
I know on education we could have a conversation all day. Mind you, though, when some of us bring this up, I've always said free SHS is a good thing, being implemented in many ways poorly, but it's a fantastic.
The minister himself has agreed that
Kwesi from Mpuntu, that's the final point. 20 seconds. Let's go.
Yeah, Kwesi from
What Mpuntu are you bringing to Asante Achem North? 20 seconds. Let's go.
I've already indicated that the whole point boils about using education as a basis for socio-economic transformation, particularly narrowed to the level of Asante Achem. Clearly you are aware of the hula balloons within the constituencies and the fact that in terms of our outlook is not very good, and that has really derailed development activities because the resources are very few. So if you have leadership that is not really syncing with the power brokers and people that have to cause development within the constituency, definitely will lag back. Right. You just referenced Banredi. Banredi is no longer there. But we need to produce a new Banredi, and that's why the new David Kwesi Kwarteng is coming.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Ben.
Well, that is MPP parliamentary candidate hopeful for Asante Achem North, Kwesi Kwarteng Frimpong. I only found out today that Frimpong was a part of his name. Not Kweku Frimpong, but Kwesi
Frimpong.
He has been our guest. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us to bring you this segment. Of course, they're offering you free prostate screening, free fertility screening. And here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi Chronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrade Anaji State Tema Committee 22. Techiman Hanswa in Siamanzama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Up next, we serve you sports.
Now, elsewhere, Ghanaian fans in Ivory Coast have expressed disappointment over the performance of the Black Stars at the AFCON. This follows the shock 2-1 loss inflicted by Cape Verde on Sunday. The fans want the playing body to up their game for the upcoming encounter against Egypt on Thursday.
All the Ivorian people are supporting us. The atmosphere was very good for us, but Ghana play, but I could see the referee disappoint some people. Let the players have a disappointment slow.
And I call park now, I'm calling you and Massacre. Democrat, well, let me take another sort of park and me stadium because they see and run a day. Then came in Luso and Kanyak invent, let him second when social first match. Please, the Mandano, a bamboo back a crack. Let me imagine take a camera can say, Coach in near Dadia, a man for Canada, Messia Ghana for players. Omunsia a 20 year Buamo, you know, Model Akuma Ghana man. So say Ghana personal, born like personally. As a born of a so bomber who didn't born me who say, yes, that's a quality crana. Said Emwa, players in Umia Casache. Born the machine said second goal on Shandy, me and Finzeke players and the second goal by. Because born send me born is by, you know. No defenders and any keeper could do one side. And to any passing man, so that one, no, there's a pull Mudawa. To one also go no answer it. Sataman is a car born or the body born, see, and they say, born now, and you're free go. Like, Nankas, me feel it bad. Me feel it bad because now football, a boy and Nankas, and yet, first half, you're more, second match, and conference dominating. What I say. But, you find a quantum type, press lady, or more you not one mabo.
So right here in Treshville, the situation isn't any different. Ghanaian fans watched yesterday's game here on this particular street in their numbers. They felt equally disappointed as Ghana lost that particular game by 2 goals to 1. We've also been communicating with the Ghanaian fans, the Ghanaian community here in Treshville, and of course, same old story. Same disappointment, and they want those at the helm of affairs to make enough changes to ensure that they win the next game against Egypt.
In fact, we are Ghana need be over here, Boni be a hoy. Nanso, and paying for say a chance to any day in Mui. In himself, Abia in Egypt, coaching in Bern, who in your maybe ye. Now I am 1-2-1-2 be ye.
Onumpo in finance. Because Ghana team Obia or Biano, or more de mum, Yanso Yamoa de, Nanso, or from de a itimide Mpugu Eba. Until and she ya a bit Marco Yalim, Namwasa Gideon, inshallah, a quack of finance Ajaka.
So the match day 1 ended in favor of Cape Verde. The fans looked disappointed, but a couple of them, quite huge number of them are confident, hopeful, and optimistic that we are going to win our next game and eventually win the third to book our ticket into the next round of the African Cup of Nations here in La Côte d'Ivoire. From Treshville here in Côte d'Ivoire, my name is Anna Sabit reporting for Joy News.
And that's how we wrap up the sports segment here on the AM show. My name is Harun Mubarak, and have a good morning.
Welcome back on the AM show. Ghana is in the grips of an economic downturn exacerbated by borrowing. And as of now, we're looking at the next tranche of the IMF's, disbursement of $600 million. But guess what? Before that, we have to go through the tango of disentangling that bid with our external creditors. $5.4 billion at stake. And that is what it's going to take to get the second tranche. But will we get there? What will be the consequences if we don't? What do we have to consider between now and then, later this month, when that meeting actually is concluded? Well, joining us for a discussion on these matters, we have Professor Gottfried Bockbin. He is a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. He is with us. Prof, good morning.
And good morning to our cherished listeners.
All right. We'll also have joining the conversation Dr. Theo A. Champong, a banking consultant. He will join the conversation. But I'm going to kickstart the conversation with Isaac Kofi J, data analyst here with us at Joy News. Kofi, a very good morning to you. You would have to unmute, Kofi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, loud and clear. Yeah, you're looking dapper this morning from the little I can see from where the laptop is. Yeah, you see, I got you smiling. Good to join the conversation. So, Kofi, tell us all, what is the status right now? How far have we come with this entire debt exchange? Now we are looking at our external creditors. What is the status quo, and what can we expect by way of meetings coming up and the hope of securing the second tranche of the IMF package?
Well, Ben, so according to the update given by the Finance Ministry themselves, when the Finance Minister actually met the external creditors or the investor community, he gave some sort of presentation painting a picture of Ghana's external debt, the magnitude, and what the government was hoping to restructure. Then he told us that the magnitude of our external debt was about $30 billion. Now, out of this $30 billion, we actually earmarked $20 billion out of that $30 billion for restructuring. The reason why we let some of the debt out is because the remaining belong to the multilateral creditors, i.e. the IMF, the African Development Bank, and other multinational organizations, where it was, according to the Finance Ministry, those debts were not part of the restructuring, bracket or parameter. Now, out of the $20 billion that we earmarked for restructuring, we expect about $5.4 billion to come from the bilateral creditors, i.e. here we are talking about the official creditors, which includes China, France, in fact, the Paris Club. So these are the people that will do about $5.4 billion. Then another leg of this problem is the external commercial creditors, what we call the Eurobond holders or the bond holders. There we've earmarked about 14.6 billion US dollars that we want to restructure that. So right from the word go, you know where the magnitude of the restructuring must be. 5.4 billion from bilateral, 14.6 billion from commercial. And the reason why it has become relatively easier to talk about the bilateral debt and make it a condition of the needed financing assurance to unlock the next 600 million is because if you look at this bilateral debt, the kind of restructuring or the terms and conditions for the restructuring is not as the same as what you will get at the commercial or the Eurobond level. The restructuring... Ben, can you hear me?
Please go ahead, I can hear you.
Yeah. The restructuring at the bilateral, circle or level is a bit easier because here, per what we know so far, government's proposal or the accepted terms and conditions is to suspend payment on interest for a period of time. What we understand is going to be about 4 years, and right after the 4th year, then we start, paying the debt. And that is the terms and condition of the bilateral, debt restructuring. So you don't actually see some sort of specific haircuts. Per what we know, I have not really seen any, demand for a specific haircut. What we were looking for is relief for a period of time, and that period of time is going to be about 4 years. And that is why it was important to set a cutoff date for considering this debt. And so that is how probably soft, maybe not soft because we still have to go through the ordeal of talking to the official creditors, but it is relatively easier compared to the Eurobond, creditors. Now, we also know that this 5.4 billion debt that we are talking about is about 27% of the entire debt earmarked for restructuring. So in essence, We are almost through lifting about 27% of our debt burden for the next 4 years. Maybe our interest payment or debt servicing, we may not be doing that for the next 4 years, 27%. The biggest chunk of this whole debt restructuring has to do with the commercial creditors, which they hold about 73% of the amount earmarked for restructuring. And if you listen to the government and if you study the space, that is where you realize that that's the place that government want to get maximum haircuts from. So we know the proposals already. The proposal submitted for that restructuring is between 30 to 40, up to 40% haircut on principal and up to 5%, haircut on interest. So that tells you that government has almost shifted all the burden on the private creditors, which is the Eurobond creditors, because you are asking them to take as high as 40%, haircut on principal and 5% on interest. And it's the reason why it's become a bit sophisticated, complex, or should I say, we've not really seen progress as far as the commercial creditors are concerned, because the blue chip investors who bought these original bonds are currently not the ones holding them at the moment. They've actually sold them off when the economy was not really doing well and we had all those downgrades. They sold them off to cut their losses. And those holding the commercial bonds right now are people who are risk takers. They are willing to hold on to the bond until maybe the dying embers of whatever agreement we'll have with them. And so you have a feel that maybe when you speak to some experts, they say government is not probably really keen on actual restructuring. What we are actually looking for is to just get the assurance to get the IMF money, disbursed or released. And so they say that we are only postponing our debt crisis. We are not doing actual restructuring that will give us actual reliefs. We are only hoping to get some sort of assurances to be able to get the IMF money. So the interest right now, or the focus right now, is to how to get the money and not how to, reduce our debt. Because what it looks like right now is that we are only postponing our debt crisis and not really doing a lot about really bringing it down. Because if you look at those that you are asking to take the biggest portion of this whole debt burden, is the private people. These are the people that you are hoping to, get the needed, fiscal beauty to go back to them and also go and borrow again in the Eurobond space. And so that's how, difficult the whole thing is. We may be through with the official creditors, but the biggest problem then is actually ahead, where we will be hoping to restructure about 14.6 billion of our external commercial creditors. And that's where the major problem lies.
Well, thank you for situating the conversation, Kofi. Let me now come to Professor Bokpin, who is actually a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. When you look at the fact that this is where we are, we're trying to restructure 14.6 billion of our debt, of course, 5.4 billion also in terms, that is what we're aiming at restructuring. But then you look at how things have turned out within this first quarter. From late last year, we were expecting to be able to be done with this so that at the tail end of last year, hopefully in the last quarter, we could have had the second tranche of the disbursement of $600 million. That has not happened. We've waited until January. I know as of last week, we had a draft term sheet from some of these external creditors. What does all of this mean? Some say that should suffice for the IMF to give us the second tranche. From where you sit, what is your reading of that matter?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think your colleague has said almost everything. To the extent that the IMF managing director, in terms of the proficiency of the term sheet, to the extent that the IMF managing director has written that they are satisfied with the draft term sheet, and that is in line with the broad DSA-based sustainability analysis of the framework. Yeah, we can go along with that, but because the actual details of the term sheet are yet to be worked out and agreed with the individual countries who form the official creditor committee, co-chaired by China and France, there is still a lot that has to be done going forward. But the IMF had insisted that the first review, though we reached staff level agreement in October last year, and for the IMF's own program outline, the first review should have been completed by 1st November 2023. Completion would mean that it should have gone to board for approval. What caused that delay was the fact that they needed some agreement from the official creditor committee. So the IMF wasn't asking for agreement from both the restructuring of external bilateral and external commercial. Their focus was on the external bilateral. So to the extent that that has been issued now, we can say that we have scaled that wall. And therefore, the board will meet, and that should unlock the $600 million. And then, of course, from other official financing sources that they include the World Bank and stuff like that. But there's something that your colleague said that is quite interesting. So the point is that what we are reading from the term sheet looks more of debt moratorium, right? So if you are supposed to make some principal repayments this year, the next year, you wouldn't have to make those payments. That would constitute relief for you this year or last year. Remember that when government triggered its application under the G20 Common Framework, they took advantage of the debt service suspension clause of the G20 Common Framework and did not pay the coupons on its external debt. As at the end of 2023, government had accumulated more than $2 billion. So what that means is that that money that could have gone to creditors was now available to the country simply because of the few not paying. But then if you look at it broadly, in the medium to the long term, then you begin to associate with the interjection made by your colleague that to what extent that this led to long-term debt sustainability, right, over a longer term. And that is where I believe that there is some level of risk that we have to bear in mind. It may satisfy the concerns of the IMF. Remember, the IMF program, whether we like it or not, is not so long-term, right? 2026. 2026 is going to be difficult to say we have achieved their sustainability. Probably a logical outcome would be ask for extension. So we said
an extension for how long? Another 2 years or another 4 years?
Another 2 years or so. Remember when the program was approved on May 17, 2023, when we examined it, our conclusion was that this is a program that is designed with extension in mind. So it's not going to be a 3-year program. Bear that in mind. Because if you look at the debt contour, the tragedy, and the country's own history, and the level of fiscal primary surplus that we'll be able to record, bearing in mind an election year in 2024, and the possibility of fiscal slippages, there's real risk, right, that we have to bear in mind. But to the extent that this agreement on time scarcity paves the way for the board to meet and approve our first review, I think we can take that with both hands. Remember, that is all we have been looking for. But it doesn't mean we are out of the room. I'm sure colleagues mentioned that there's a lot of work now to do in translating the aspirations of the 10 states into actual and working out the details with member countries. But after all, even if we have progress from that, that is just $5.4 billion out of the $20 billion universe of eligible bonds available for restructuring. So there's still the bulk of the debt to be restructured, so it's yet to come. But of course, I agree with the Minister of Finance that with this progress, at least it gives government that space to also shift considerable attention to the restructuring of the external commercial. So there's a long way for us to go. But bear in mind, times are hard everywhere, and that will guide the country in terms of how far we can push in terms of the level of haircut that they have to take. If it comes in the form of moratorium, we could still estimate haircut if we look at the present value of the old bond vis-a-vis the present value of the new bond, given the new interest rate and the maturity term. We can still estimate a haircut from there in present value terms. We'll call that one the realized investor loss.
Looking at how much we're hoping to restructure, but maybe even before I get there, let me find out from you. What would the implications be if we do not get the next tranche of $600 million as soon as possible? Let's say we miss getting it within this month. What would be the consequences?
Hey, that would be quite serious for us. Already, we cannot discount the fact that the delay from November last year to now has not had an effect on the economy. Remember, the country got to 8 weeks end, and on 3rd July 2022, the president made a call to the IMF. So we felt that the only hope was to lean on the IMF. So come to think of it that the IMF program itself is not working, right? We are not getting the inflow the way we had expected. That considerably increases the economic uncertainty and probably undermines the confidence and the recovery that we have made so far. And therefore, I want to stop thinking about we're not getting it. We're not getting the board approval. I'm more focused on one direction, that there is no other way. We have to work towards getting the board approval. But at the end of the day, I can agree with you to some extent. How much is $600 million? This economy is worth billions of dollars. How much is that? If it's that unlocks World Bank support and all of that, we're actually looking at it around $1.2 billion. How much is that in this economy worth billions of dollars? I hope you understand that. So in all of this, it's not like we are really going to get some kind of inclusive economic growth and all of that will really change the fortunes of Ghanaians. No, not at all. So that is why we have said earlier that, look, despite the progress that we made from the IMF supported program, this country must sit down and begin other reforms, fiscal, governance, productivity, structural, that will complement the gains that we made from the IMF program. Other than that, this program only sets up for the next IMF program.
Let me also bring in Dr. Theo Champong, who joins the conversation, gentlemen. He's a banking consultant. Dr. Champong, a very good morning to you.
I'm an economist, not a banking consultant.
I thought you had added something to your portfolio. Okay, let's stick to economist Dr. Theo Champong. Well, so I'd like to find out from you. The draft terms, the draft term sheet has been presented. Those discussions have been had. But the question is, from where we sit, how good a position do we find ourselves in terms of securing the next tranche of $600 million? And what would be the consequences? The same question I posed to Professor Bokpin. What would be the consequences? Because we know where we are currently. If we don't get this next tranche of the $600 million, it's lessen our balance of payments as well as, the international reserves as well. We know that as of August 2023, the international reserves would suffice for just a month of import cover. So as we sit here, we know that our balance of payment is going to be affected. Our international reserves are going to be affected. And add that to the fact that within this first quarter, government will have to fork out some $120 million thereabouts for the bulk distribution companies. All of this means if we don't get this, I mean, from where some people sit, it could be near chaotic. What picture do you see?
I'm actually very confident that the money is going to come, and I have been for a while now. So I do recall back in late November, early December, having had similar discussions on other platforms and indicating that although the money had been delayed, so the first review of the IMF program had been completed as far back as October of last year, and we were expecting the 600 million to come in around first, second week of November. That did delay because of what Prof has explained, the bilateral external debt restructuring negotiations and what to expect. That was really the main hurdle. And from all indications, that hurdle for now has been crossed, right? So what that means is that come in 3 or 4 days' time, when the IMF Executive Board meets, then they're actually going to now consider the review of the first program, which Ghana completed as far back as October of last year. And then subsequently, when they review and okay that, then the 600 million is going to be released. So I did indicate a while back that that money was going to come sometime towards the end of January, and there were even some disagreements with other sort of discussions to that effect. But what is very clear now is that the money would come. And then the other forms of financing from the World Bank and the likes would also sort of come through. The biggest impact for me is not really sort of the short-term boost to the reserves to pay BDCs or to pay other, liabilities of the government. I think it was really more again to do with the confidence and the signal that this sent to broader market participants in the economy. I was worried that if this had delayed even further going into, say, for example, February or March, and into that crucial period where companies have closed their finances for the year and begin to repatriate their profit, etc., then people would begin to take or gamble on the cedi all over again, and you may see some massive depreciation of the currency like we saw, the last few years. But given that this has actually come through and the release of the funds also be coming through, that would go in a long way to bolster the reserves and importantly send a signal that the IMF program is somewhat on track. There are challenges, there are some things or some areas that we still have got to meet. But for this phase of the program and implementation, it's actually quite a positive thing. What happens next is also quite important. So if you look at the program structure, by the beginning of May, right, we should have had the second review of the program, and this time around we're going to be using the December 2023 performance criteria as the basis for that. That is where again there might be 1 or 2 challenges, in terms of, okay, now you've got the bilateral debt somewhat being restructured, and like Prof said, it's not going to be an outright sort of cancellation. You're getting some moratorium and some extension of, interest payments here and there, and we can work out what that means in present value terms. But the important thing now going forward now becomes, are you able to also use the principle of the comparability of the debt treatment to rework out your external commercial debt, which is really one of the biggest, issues that we've got to deal with. And as we've seen, even with Zambia late last year, they got something agreed, but then the official creditors came back and the bilateral official came back and said, we don't agree with what you signed on to with the commercial creditors. So that, I think, is a bit of the headwinds that we need to look out for. But overall, for what has been agreed now, that money would come through towards the end of the month, and it's going to bolster, yes, the reserves, but importantly, signal that the program is relatively on course, and that helps in sort of safeguarding the relative stability of the city.
Doc, so basically, money no day for hand, but you're saying that we're sitting pretty good right now. We're sitting pretty. It's a good position we're in, and that we'll get the money before the close of January. That's what you're saying. That's your forecast.
Absolutely, because what we need to do, we have done, and then what was the hurdle, which was getting this external bilateral arrangement done or agreed, we have done. You look at the IMF statement, and it's very clear that they're going to table that to the board for the first review of the program. So I'm relatively confident.
Okay.
That we're going to be getting that. But like Prof said, and I'm also reiterating, there are bigger issues that we've got to deal with beyond this, going into the second review of the program in May of 2024.
Professor Bokpin, before we look at some of the footage coming from the Finance Ministry, among others, Prof, I'd like to find out from you, are you as optimistic as Dr. Theo Champong? Do you also forecast that by end of this month, we should have secured the second tranche of $600 million? Professor Bokpin, if you're with me, that question was meant for you. All right. We'll try to get Professor Bokpin back to respond to that. I was just trying to find out how optimistic he was, whether he was thinking along the lines of Dr. Theo Champong. But for now, my colleague George Wiafe has been interacting with Ken Ofori-Atta on expectations on all of this going forward. And this is what the Finance Minister had to share.
Good place for that engine to be cranked, for us to see the jobs back and the projects being. So that's a good part.
So that's about that because of this, we're going to see some of these.
Exactly.
What do you look for in terms of the broader impact of what has happened on the economy?
I'm expecting a pretty robust year with regards to the economy. We will make sure that job creation continues. We will make sure that the social protection is not compromised, and certainly industry will be supported. The mutual prosperity dialogue, which is engaging government more actively with the private sector, will continue. And I think we'll continue to hold our heads up in the months ahead.
All right, so that is the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, on all of this. Let's take a look at some of what he says. He expects a pretty robust year in terms of the economy. That is one. Robust is relative, but I'll leave you to read between the lines. He also talks about the fact that industry will be supported. And of course, he talks about the private sector, labor in there. I'd like to find out what your reactions are when the Finance Minister gives such assurances. Already, the system is pretty tight. Like I mentioned, even in terms of our import cover, as of August 2023, we had just 1 month. I've pointed to what would have to cough up when it comes to BDCs, about $120 million within this quarter, even if we get the $600 million. So the question is, this robustness of economy, how do you think we're going to manage that, Dr. Theo Champong?
It's a good question you asked. We're only in January, and if you look at some of the indicators on growth, on inflation, and on other sort of high-level frequency data, yes, it does show that things are beginning to improve in relative terms, but they're still high, right? For example, with inflation, it's still well over 20%, and there's room for it to come down much further. But compared to where we were 2 years ago, things are in a much better shape. And you can look at all the core indicators, and that's quite clear. At the micro level is where the challenge is when it comes to translating some of these gains into growth, into kind of call it relative prosperity. The last 2 years has been tough for many households in the country, and even some of the gains that the government has been talking about, some of which I've also highlighted here, it's going to take a while for that to translate into improving livelihoods, and incomes. And I think for the government, they are trying to push for as much of the gains to be felt now, given that you have an election in December of this year, and people have been squeezed very, very hard for the last, 2 years. So there's a bit of rhetoric on the other side in trying to drum up and sort of make it look as though some of these gains are beginning to improve. But if you look at the cost of doing business, if you look at the high tax environment, to the point that now even electricity, bills are going to be taxed. If you look at the fact that you're still having to pay in excess of 30% to borrow to be able to do business in the country, that is still constraining. And those are the things that, beyond the talk of economic growth, beyond the talk of debt restructuring, the emphasis now begins, to move into productivity and the structural reforms that then ensures that you have jobs, ensures that the cost of business comes down, and ensures that those high-level numbers or gains are translated at the micro level. That challenge, I do not foresee it being resolved, overnight, even going into, the crucial election period. So there's still a very long way for us, to go.
All right. Professor Bokpin, welcome back. I was asking a question earlier before I got to the finance minister's statement, his interaction with my colleague George Wiafe. Dr. Thierry Champon paints the picture of optimism, where he is hoping, barring any unforeseen developments, that by end of January, we should have the second tranche of $600 million. My question to you, how optimistic are you that we can actually manage that by close of January? It appears we've lost Professor Bokpin again. Prof, are you there? Okay, we don't have Professor Bokpin. So moving on with all of these, it appears you've mentioned inflation. There's an interesting picture, Dr. Thierry Champon, because when we look at inflation, year on year, it's going down. Month on month, it is not. Inflation is actually looking north. It's going higher month on month. The cost of goods out there is still going high. And with all these dynamics, yes, you made mention of what attempts have been made by government on the macro level. The problem is it hasn't trickled down to the micro level, and we know of everything in between. What is your reading of that as far as this debt situation is concerned, before we get to the breakdown of what we owe and what we can expect from our external creditors?
Yeah, so two responses to that on the inflation. Yes, you're right when you look at the month on month, but again, the inflation analysis is always with reference to a particular time period, right? So yes, if you look on month, you might see a bit of an uptick. But if you extend the series and you look at it also from where we were even, year on year or quarter on quarter as well, it's a different picture, a different story.
Okay, Doc, I'll come back to you briefly. Just hold for me because Professor Bokpin has to squeeze in just a little time for us. So please hold on to your thoughts. I'll be right back to you. Professor Bokpin, welcome back on the show.
Thank you.
So I was posing.
Good friend, you are champion.
Yes, I was asking whether you were as optimistic as Theo Champong that would get the second tranche by close of January. And how do you respond to the finance minister when he says 2024 is going to be a robust year in terms of the economy, and that industry will be supported, of course. Looking at the macro versus the micro, inflation, taxation, everything in between. What is your take?
Well, thank you very much. I associate with the comment by Dr. Theo Champong that we're certainly going to scale the ball in getting the next tranche of 600 million. The IMF managing director has already tweeted that they are broadly satisfied with the term sheet, and therefore the board will be meeting. So we'll hold them to that. Yeah, so that will come. As to 2024 being a good year and all of that, look at the way that the government welcomed Ghanaians in 2024. Happy New Year message was a VAT in electricity consumption about 30 million. That is how you start the year, right? So if a government Happy New Year message to consumers is imposition of VAT on electricity consumption in such an economy, in such time, then you want to tell me that 2024 will be a year to remember. I think that is the other aspect of government communication that unsettles analysts. Okay, where government keeps on a certain narrative, which is completely off the reality. Okay, you are inflicting pain on people, and you are telling them you are well. You are well. So how they feel is irrelevant. Okay. So if government wants to drastically make improvements in the lives of Ghanaians in 2024, we need to be very careful that does not come with the usual physical slippages. Okay. We don't need to overspend to win over elections, because the consequences of that after the election will come back to bite us as Ghanaians. So, for instance, if government decides that from the second half of this year, July, we are going to increase salaries of public sector workers by, let's say, 30% in the rest of them, and that will be simply because you want to cut voters. Okay, do we have the fiscal space to accommodate that and all of that? So my message to Ghanaians will be that yes, we've seen some relative stability, and as Dr. Joe Champon said, it takes time for the macro level development to transit to micro household level, and that consistency is what is important. In this country, we don't do the right things consistently for a very long time. Right, so we start off so well, then we are off the track, and then we try to bring ourselves back, and that could be very costly, and the rest of them. Bear in mind that when you are talking about making changes in the lives of people, you are not talking about 12 months. You are looking at this in the medium to the long term, and therefore I would advise, my position would be that government needs to be moderate. If you remember, when government started saying that they had turned the corner, it was somewhere middle of last year. When they presented the media review in July, they said they have turned the corner. Okay, and where is the impact? Interest rate is still very high. In fact, the Ghana reference rate is more than 30%. Bank of Ghana's policy rate is 30%, still 30%. Okay, so if you look at the broad subsectors of the economy, things have not recovered inclusively or broadly in a way that will trickle down to the ordinary Ghanaian. Let me ask you a question. When we decide as a country, sitting on the coupons of investors to have a soft tail over an inflation of 26.3%, right? Did we go to check whether the inflation that pushed over 850,000 Ghanaians into poverty has equally recovered? Have they recovered? Have they changed course? They have not. We are still living through the fiscal austerity to restore macroeconomic stability. We are still living through that. Look at taxes. Okay? Have companies turned the corner? No. Have individuals turned the corner? No. Even if we ended inflation, we ended 2023 with inflation of 23.2%, please, that is still very high by world average. In fact, it's still very high compared to our regional peers. It's still very high compared to our structural peers. It's still very high compared to our aspirational peers. Then look at food inflation. Food inflation is more than 27%. In fact, food inflation in the Eastern region is more than 40%. Check the data. Right? So you see the marginality. You see the differences. In a country where income levels are very low, we have gone through haircuts. We have gone through all kinds of taxes. So when food inflation is that high, the impact is very high. And food is what takes more than 42% of household expenditure. So yes, we've seen some relative stability. Let's be moderate with the celebration. And then let's build on that. Let's be honest and truthful to the reality. We don't lose anything by telling Ghanaians that we've made some progress, but there's still a lot to be done. Bear with us. Let's carry along. There's nothing wrong with that.
A quick add-on before maybe we look at former President Mahama's comments, and if you have the time, I can take your thoughts on that as well. IC Research has some forecasts. You know that as of last year, looking at the value of the cedi lost to different currencies, 22.5% to the American dollar, 24.9% to the British pound, 22.8% to the euro. Now, as it stands now, you're looking at an exchange rate of about 12.3 to 1 American greenback, the dollar. The projections are that if things don't go well, we don't get this money as quickly as possible, it could rise to as much as 13.10 midway through. You've already shared your optimism, but when it comes to the rate of depreciation or appreciation of our currency, what are your projections, let's say by mid-year?
Okay, so typically in economics, when we talk about stability, it's not the same as same price across time. So with a certain level of depreciation of the cedi to the major trading currencies will still be considered to be stable, right? And therefore, any variation in excess of 4-5 thereabouts, we are a bit concerned. But given that it's also an election year, our own trust tells us that we have not been able to walk our talk and talk our walk in terms of fiscal discipline and all of that in all the major competitive elections. And therefore, there's possibility of fiscal indiscipline, which in itself could derail some of the gains that we have made. Way back in November last year, we had maintained that we expect that the cedi will be trading above 13 Ghana cedis to $1, yes, because that's the dominant currency in Ghana. Any depreciation that is usually within the broad contours or expectations, we can take that. Remember, whilst we are celebrating stability with the IMF program, we are still seeing some depreciation, right? But we can say it's relatively stable compared to what it was in 2020 when there was a run on the cedi and the rest of them. So we can still talk about relative stability, even though the cedi depreciated perhaps marginally and all of that, because price stability necessarily is not the same price across time.
Let me now just stay with us a little bit, Prof, if you may. Former President Mahama has been speaking about a number of things. He's been talking about the fact that should his administration assume the reins of power, Ghanaians should be patient with them and that there's quite a hurdle to go past. Let's listen to Mr. President on this bit, the former president.
Let me beforehand tell you that our country's economic situation is in a very dire state. The MPP has brought Ghana's economy to the lowest ebb that has ever been seen in our history. We are broke. We are indebted. There's hardship in the land. There's no money in the system. People do not have disposable incomes. Pensioners' monies have been taken. Bondholders' monies have been taken. And so it's created a very critical situation for us. And therefore, we are very measured in the promises that we make, because we know that we're going to come and inherit a very difficult situation. And so we would urge that when we come into office, you understand the mess that we have inherited. We have the men and women who can work to turn it around. But we will all have to understand the situation and be patient as government works to put the economy back on its feet. And so while you are making demands, if government comes, help us with this, help us with that, yes, we will. But initially, the first thing we have to do is to bring the economy back to life. And I know that as soon as we come, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to hold a national conference, a national economic dialogue. And we're going to bring all stakeholders together. We'll open the books for you to see the mess that the NPP has left for all of us and what we have to do to be able to bring it back. My brothers and sisters, when NDC was leaving office, the total public debt was 120 billion cedis. Total from Kufuor's time, Atta Mills, Rawlings' time, Nkrumah's time, we owed only 120 billion. Today we owe almost 600 billion.
Professor Bokpin, so you've heard the former president. He's calling for a grace period should his administration come to power. He says he'll have a national economic dialogue reminiscent of what was held during his tenure, involving, well, practically all facets of our national life to deliberate on the economy. Is it a good call, do you think, this call he's making? And do you trust that a future NDC administration would be able to execute something like this? What's your take?
First, I will look at the call for consensus building. I think that is important. It's one of the things that has been lacking in this administration. And once you fail to do that, then it's difficult to get largely the people alone. So that is a big point. My disagreement with the other aspect of asking for time is that Ghanaians were not ungrateful. We are largely realistic. We know what government, or we can have an idea of what a new government can do in the first year, second year, third year. We can have a fair idea. Given also that we are under an IMF program, we can. But this should not be an excuse for non-performance. Let me give you a historical perspective. Since 1992, anytime there was a regime change, the new administration, all that they do in the first year is actually not working hard to improve the lives of Ghanaians, but they practically use the first year to run down the party that lost. We spend considerable energy telling how bad the other people have been, and we lose focus on the fact that we have a mandate to make change. There are some things that can be done in a week, some things that can be done in a month, in a quarter, in a year. I think that is more important. That's more important. Yes, we can review the past, but there's no future in the past. Lives are being impacted on daily basis. So we need to strike a good balance of how we want to score political points by focusing on the past versus the need to mobilize quickly within the shortest possible time to see what we can do and demonstrate. But a good way for the former president to demonstrate to Ghanaians that he will do something drastic will be informed by how he manages the transition. And how he manages the various agitations within the NDC, hoping to take over, tolerate everything that could be taken over. A good way to demonstrate to Ghanaians that change has come is to form a lean government within the shortest possible time.
To form a lean government within the shortest possible time?
Yes, a lean government within the shortest possible time, not more than 40 minutes. And set the ground rolling. Some time can be devoted to reviewing the past. Yes, we will do that. But more time will be devoted to doing the right thing from day one. There cannot be any longer honeymoon. Ghanaians have had to make honeymoon. Okay? But the reality is that governance is a continuum. Yes, some level of patience we can ask from Ghanaians. I don't know whether Ghanaians will have some patience left. But yes, that is fine. A new government needs to settle in and the rest of them. But the former president, if he wins, has considerable experience about managing transition and the rest of them. So that didn't take him that long. He should set the ground rolling. Like anyone who dies, we can't bring the person back. So let's not waste a minute to major on the minor. Ghana has a future to build. Life to be transformed. That is more important. So, yes, we agree. Of course, bear in mind that usually in the last quarter of all the competitive election years, there's usually lack of disclosure of data and the rest of them. Therefore, when we are done with the elections, we'll be counting not only votes, after that, we'll be counting deaths and so many things. Let's do that quickly because our attempt to unnecessarily blame the outgoing government could in itself create disaffection.
Right.
In how the new government will be able to mobilize Ghanaians along a certain path.
Right.
To charge. Remember that any party, the two main parties, over the period, they are assured of almost 40% of the vote, more or less.
Right.
That is a sizable number. Okay, so you will need to cut both the opposition and then your own people along a certain path, because without that, you may not be able to carry through the structural reforms that will be very painful. There will be too much division.
Right.
Remember that when we are talking about development at the national level, development at the national level must reflect what we call the 5 Ps. What are those 5 Ps? Development must be about people. It must preserve our planet Earth. It must also preserve peace. So the development that divides Ghanaians is not development. We want development that brings Ghanaians together as one people, regardless of our tribal affiliations. So that is how we assess development at the national level. It must reflect the 5 Ps. It must be about people. So if we say inflation has come down, it must reflect in the lives of the people.
Right.
It must reflect peace. It must preserve our planet Earth. So if the government say they have turned the corner, they should equally tell us how Galamsey has stopped. Because that is our planet Earth. You cannot talk about economic recovery when you are destroying your forest, destroying the rural ecosystem that supports life.
Right.
Water as its embodiment. That is not development.
Okay,
and
so
development must reflect partnership, prosperity.
Right.
So development that brings Ghanaians together, that is what we call development, not development that divides us.
Prof, I know you have to go. Give me 10 seconds or 5 seconds of your time. Straightforward answer. How much time do you think an NDC administration would need to get things stable again? 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 1 year plus? What do you think?
Look, the former president, right now, their own analysis will be pointing to a certain direction.
Which is what?
The conclusion is that they are going to win. They should start forming things now. So that the day they are sworn in, they start going.
Yes, but how long do you think, even if they hit the ground running, how long do you think it will take?
Well, usually the first year is usually for consultation issues and the rest of them. So maximum after 1 year, we should be seeing the footprint of the new administration.
Okay.
Some may
All right.
into the medium to the long term, but
Okay.
the starting point is important, and the hope that they give in terms of the quality of the leadership the former president brings to bear.
Right.
He defines his administration more than the food he serves on the table immediately.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Bokpin, for your time with us. Professor Godfred Bokpin is a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Dr. Theo Champo, my sincere apologies. We had to clear a few issues with Professor Bokpin, who has to head into some meetings. Doc, so coming back to you, I just want your thoughts on these same matters I have run by him. You've heard from the finance minister. You've heard from the former president. What are the linkages? What can work and what will not work?
I think Prof has said most of the points, which I very much align with. I mean, yeah, when the finance minister talks about robust economy, often my reaction is, what is the definition of robust? Is it just macroeconomic indicators or numbers like inflation and policy rate and things like that? Or it actually goes beyond to look at issues of, the real economy, employment, living incomes, wages, cost of doing business, the high tax environment that we've all been, complaining about. If you look at it with a much wider lens or scope, the issue of robust for me becomes a bit, suspect, in the sense that I don't see how we're going to be talking robust with only 10, 11 months to the election. And even remember that most times, by the time we get to about half year, most of these government agencies and some of the bosses they're all out there campaigning. And, there's not much work that gets done. So I struggle to accept the robust narrative which is being painted. In
other words, you have your doubts about this robust economy that the finance minister is speaking of.
Minister is talking about. Yes, I do have doubts. If you look at it purely from just the narrow macroeconomic numbers, you can make an argument for robust. But if you expand it to look at the real economy, the real sector, cost of living, and borrowing and all of that, I don't see how that is going to be the case. It will take at least 3 years or so to turn, things around properly to see that robust being felt at the micro level. And it relates to also what President Mahama had been saying in the tape that you played about that, they are going to bring the economy back to life, and they're going to convene some national dialogue.
So a national economic dialogue, and he's calling for a grace period that Ghanaians should bear with him. I posed that question to Professor Bokpin. What do you make of it, and how long do you think? Professor Bokpin said maximum a year plus.
Yeah, I think, look, the former president has had the benefit of being president before. That's the one distinguishing feature that he brings that others haven't had. I don't think that he needs 1 year to sort of turn or begin to hit the ground running, as we say in Ghana.
How long then?
I think within 3 months to about 5-6 months, we should begin to see some palpable or tangible results and some gains being felt. Especially given also that he says he would have convened this national dialogue, and a lot of maybe recommendations and new ideas that would have come that he can take and start running with straight away on the economy and straight away also on governance.
Dr. Champong, you do realize that a new administration, there will be a lot of backlog issues to deal with. 3 to 6 months, even if there are policies, whenever this is convened, this economic dialogue. When it is convened, whatever emanates from there, that in itself could take about 3 to 6 months to bring to bear. So how feasible is 3 to 6 months?
It shouldn't take 3 to 6 months for it to begin to bear. You have had the benefit of someone who has actually been president before and knows how this country is run. And number two, it's also about the signaling and the intent that comes across pretty much straight away, right? So I'm not saying that they have to do everything within 3 to 6 months, but the signal that they send in the early stages of, potentially a new administration is absolutely and fundamentally, important with something new being done. And this is where, again, I get a little bit concerned, even with some of the rhetoric that President Mahama is highlighting. So in one sense, you want to bring the economy back to life, and he uses or gives some debt numbers also in the tape that you played. But then if you do the relative analysis, right, no one or no administration can escape blame when it comes to these indicators. So let me give you two points. President Mahama talks about them leaving government with a total public debt of 122, 123 billion Ghana cedis. That is true. When they came into power back in 2008, the total debt was 9.7 billion, right, Ghana cedis. So if you do that relative comparison between 9.7 to 122, the increment there is almost 13 times. Yeah. If you take from 2016, that 122, and you take the current number now, which is around 600 or so billion, or a little bit more than that, you take 600 plus, divide that by your 122, 123, that gives you an increment which is 5 times. So again, let's be careful. I get where President Mahama is going, and part of this, call it narrative or rhetoric. But again, when you look at the record that their government came and left, and you compare it and you do the analysis, you're talking almost 13 times on his side versus about 5 times now. All of them have, done things that have impoverished Ghanaians, things that have, made the cost of living dire, particularly even for this administration in the last few years. But when a certain narrative or picture is being painted, which again, when you look at the data and the numbers, it's not fully substantiated, then for me as an analyst, I see a bit of a disconnect between that rhetoric and then the record that they had when they were, in administration. So I support his call for that national dialogue. I don't think that you need more than a year to start beginning to implement and to see some immediate quick results or quick wins. And it's really all about.
But Doc, that was exactly what I was asking you. When I posed the question to Prof, I asked him 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. He said a year plus. I asked you, you said 3 to 6 months. That is why I was asking you 3 to 6 months hard, definitive, or now you're saying not more than a year. So which is which?
No. I'm saying that we look at what are the quick wins that can be done within 3 to 6 months on the economic front, right? Some of the the reforms that need to be done. And then what are the wins that you can attain over the medium term,
right,
beyond that 1 year, going into 2 years. We cannot lump everything together. That's the point that I'm making.
All right.
That we need to have clear benchmarks and clear indicators in terms of what can be done. And I'm sure that whatever the outcomes are from both the manifesto that they will present to Ghanaians and also from this economic dialogue that will be held, there are some things that can be implemented and we can see results within 3 to 6 months.
All right. My final bit to you, Dr. Theo Champong. So let's assume, like we're all forecasting, by close of month, we get the next tranche, $600 million. We have to give $120 million to the BDCs, among others, to ensure that we get oil coming into the country, oil products or petroleum products. What then would be your expectation with what we can do with this money to shore up our economy ahead of the review in May? What would you like to see? So January, we've got the $600 million. How do we manage our affairs between January and May when it's time for the review? Quick thoughts and we're gone.
Two things. Manage our affairs on the revenue front and managing our affairs. I think the important one is on the spending or the expenditure, front. And that is where the biggest challenge has been and would be this year, with the election. After February, when most of the primaries have been conducted and we know who is going to contest, on the various constituencies for the two parties, we must exercise some caution on the spending, front. I expect that because this money has come in, some of the proposals to increase the VAT on electricity and all of that, probably the government should scale back. The timing is not right, and especially the fact that we still have very heavy headwinds when it comes to the cost of doing business and inflation. Those are the things that we've got to do between now and May for the second review. And then the indicators for the second review quickly is actually going to be based on the performance of the economy as of the end of 2023, December 2023.
Doc, thank you so much for your time with us this morning. We greatly appreciate your time. Those who joined us for this conversation, Isaac Ofieje, of course, he is our data analyst in here at Joy News. We also had, you just heard him, Dr. Theo Champong. He's an economist, and Professor Godfred Bokpin, a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. While staying on some of these matters, today we introduce a new segment of the AM show. We call it AM on Wheels. And we'll be in your communities to hear what your challenges are, and we'll also get your members of parliament to respond to those issues. So we start off today. We'll be in the Anyasa Utuam constituency, where Sweetie Abochi will be giving us a scoop live from that constituency, from the constituents and what they want to see in Anyasa Utuam. That conversation up next, right here on the AM show. You don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back. Here we go again. Welcome back on the AM show. As promised, we're catapulting you, if you like, all the way to Anyasa Utuam. We know the Member of Parliament for that constituency, of course, Dr. Adomako Kisi. And we are in his constituency today for this first installment of AM on Wheels. My colleague, Sweetie Abochi, is there. She'll be interacting with some of the members of that constituency, and we shall take it from there. Sweetie, if you can hear me, well, over to you.
Welcome to AM on Wheels, a new segment on the AM show with one simple mission: to bridge the gap between constituents and the constituency representatives, which is the members of parliament. Today we are at Anyasa Utuam constituency, specifically Santa Maria, where the people have a challenge. The bridge you can see behind me is a community bridge connecting Awoshi and Santa Maria. I'm also joined by the assemblyman, headmaster, and some members of the community. This is the citizens' mic, and so I'm going to let them tell us who they are, what they're doing here, and what their grievances are, so that later, when we catch up with the Member of Parliament, Dr. Adomako Kisi, he can respond to these issues. Thank you so much for making time to join us. Please tell us your name, your position, and tell us your story.
All right. My name is Nana Kwesi Jr., the Assembly Member for Santa Maria. This morning, we are here to appeal to the central government looking at the state of the footbridge here, I will commend Dimona School. They constructed this footbridge in the year 2016. Up to date, we haven't had any improvement on this. And it's very dangerous looking at the amount of people, the number of people who used to access this footbridge day in and day out from Monday to Sunday, looking at the school children, because the schools are closer here. And this bridge connects Santa Maria and that of Awoshi. So this morning, my worry is to appeal to the central government to come to our aid and then, reconstruct it for us. A vehicle bridge will be better for us. So all the vehicles connecting from various junctions and that of Santa Maria and Awoshi can use this very bridge. That's my worry.
Well, beside me now is the headmaster for this school. Please tell us the name of the school. I saw that there are students using this bridge, which in truth doesn't look good. I mean, anybody can fall into this at any time. Tell us exactly what the risk, what risk this bridge poses to your students.
I work actually, I'm the headmaster of Dimona Divine School, and this bridge, in fact, is serving as a main link to those who are living at Elang to Santa Maria. Then most of our students are also at this junction, at this neighborhood. They always access this bridge to the school. In fact, the nature of the bridge is very, very terrible, especially when it rains. In fact, it serves as a main bridge that everybody, the community, use. So we are just appealing to the government to come in to assist us because the situation is very, very terrible.
How long has this situation been like this?
Over, let's say, 12 to 13 years now.
So was it a working bridge that collapsed, or how did the situation get this bad?
Initially, the place there's nothing over there, so the school take it upon themselves to construct this mini one to help the children to cross over. And we have been using for over 10 years now, and since then, no one has come in to assist, and assist now you can see how it is. So we are pleading to the government to come in to help us.
Do you think your member of parliament is aware of the situation here on ground?
Once we have appealed to, I think, the assembly to come in, but I think they are doing one or two things for it to come to reality.
Well, let me move now to our women. Let me come between you two. Tell us what your story is concerning this bridge and anything else happening in this constituency that you want to talk about.
Me pacho, your friend Rebecca Ochrewa, popularly known as 1. Me pacho bridge ni de aye hu pa ye faswa ye bre pa hu nkola ne faswa ha ye pa nti ye sre aban ne so mbeboa ye na bridge na anya sa ye betutom ye tom nso ye de asem na eba ye pa ne chew pa mbeboa ye ye da na se.
Me pacho ye fra me Adobia Hana me pacho bridge na ye faswa Santa Maria Dimona School. Me pacho bridge ne de enya kra ya sra man say ya panichau so ba ya bridge ne ma ne yankwala ne fa no ya mpa wo bia wo ya area ha nti ya sra ban bebre yankwala ne nyina o mfa so ha the whole Santa Maria enkrofo fa ha no da enya sam ketoa nti ya sra ban say ya panichau o mra ya bridge ne ma ya na nya sa de a enya asam papa ya bete wa ha nti ya sra ban pa.
Well, I'll have you know that right from here, we are going to meet your member of parliament and he will address these concerns that you have. Hi, how are you? Tell me your name, the name of your school, and then what your concerns are.
Please, I'm called Roy Kutin and I attend Dimona Divine School. This bridge has been there for like about 8 years now, and it has been helping us get into school. But now recently, it has broken down and can't allow us to come to school early. We like this, we have morning classes and you miss it since we are at Elang and the others. So we ask that you help us reconstruct this bridge.
So before we wrap up on this particular segment, is there anything else happening in this constituency, in this community that you think you want to bring to the attention of Dr. Adumaku Kisi?
Let me say, I course I check. See, I can say bridge in Nkwa, bridge in Nkwa. Gata na that one so a problem. Now gata no so Oma ya gata no na say isuo to a obi antumi mfa ha gata no ye problem ti esra aban any minister of road and highways urban roads say man ntina ho anka say birwinsi ansa na cameramans embetwa omo ye report nti aban no on sorry so animanim ya na ombeboa community no Dimona ya bre o Dimona ya bre wo say ni schedule ya wokaska edin ya bridge nti esra aban no ombeboa yen ya damasi bebre.
Well, the assemblyman also tells me that there's a particular building in the community that was built on waterway. They've petitioned the owner. They've gone through so many processes to resolve the issue amicably. But this man is saying that he has permits and has taken them to court. Please share more light on that before we get to the place.
All right. So the scene is just about 500 meters walk from this place, and there is a house sitting in the drain. You know, the assembly brought in contractors to construct the bridge for us, and this one single landlord who is, you know, trying to resist the government from constructing the bridge. So he's taking the Central Municipal Assembly to court to seek an injunction, you know, to prevent the government from, you know, constructing the bridge for us. And that is one major problem of the people in Santa Maria. So I'm appealing to central government. I quite remember way back Honorable Atachian's time. They came in here to take videos of it, and then, you know, up to now, nothing has been done about it. So I'm appealing to central government to come in, let us demolish the building, and then construct the drain for the good people of Santa Maria to at least sleep a little bit when it rains. Thank you.
We'll bring you footages from that. But last question before I let you go. As the assemblyman, do you think that your member of parliament is doing enough for the community, for the constituency?
All right. So I'll use this opportunity to commend the member of parliament, is Honorable Dr. Dixon Admakukisi. He's trying so much for us, and you know, I appreciate whatever he's doing. Looking at the road construction that is going on, looking at the drains that is going on, you know, he's doing his best. And you know, Anya Sotum constituency consists of 13 good electoral areas. We have Olebu, Agape, Ablekuma, Awoshi, Anya, Santa Maria, Sotium, Antieku, Kwashibu, Lomenava, Tabora, Chantain. All these communities, 13 good communities, falls under Anya Sotium constituency, and we are receiving our cake in a bit. So we also appeal to central government to, you know, boost some of the stuff for us so that, you know, the citizens, the electorates will be happy a little bit.
Well, we are going to your MP, so it's interesting that you said he's doing enough for you. Meanwhile, you know, this is the situation behind it. Well, Benjamin, this is the situation here in Santa Maria in the Anya Sotum constituency. Their major concern is the bridge, the community bridge connecting Awoshi and Santa Maria, which is used by students, women, traders, everybody, which is not in the best situation. And it's a very risky one. From here, we are going to the building on the drainage where seems to be a court case. We'll bring you all the updates, and then finally we'll catch up with Dr. Admakukisi to respond to these situations. So like we told you, we will catch up with Dr. Admakukisi, who's the MP for Anya Sotum constituency, to respond to these challenges that his constituents have. We went to see a bridge, Dr. Adumaku, and it appears it's in the worst condition possible. Students were working on it. I saw a woman carrying load walking on the bridge, and it didn't look like you had the people at heart. They're asking you to do something about it. So first of all, do you know the situation there, and do you know how bad it is and the risks associated with using the bridge?
You've caught me off guard today. I mean, I wasn't expecting joy news in my constituency, but then again, once I'm here and you've captured some grievances, it's important that I respond to it. You know, the plight of the people are known to me, and it's this is where I live. It's not like I live somewhere else. I live here, and I attend to a lot of people and a lot of issues. In principle, your member of parliament represents you. So all the problems, challenges in this constituency, I'm the face in the sense that I interface with government and makes government aware of these issues with the support of the assembly. And many a times, you know, I've stopped trying to explain what is a municipal assembly job and what is a member of parliament job. I'm hoping that in the future, parliamentary service will help all of us Ghanaians come to appreciate the true difference, so that we've been marrying the job so much that it's difficult to now even tell people that this is truly strictly an assembly related job. But however, this is an area that Works and Housing Minister came by, and he is also aware of this. And I mean, Honorable Asensubachi, the drains issues, or let me say bridge issues in Anyasotum are quite a lot. CODA as well is aware, which is the Coastal Development Authority, which is also helping us with some drains in this constituency. So it isn't that I am only aware. Governmental heads and agencies are at the moment aware of our plight. And we have a very also dynamic assembly under the leadership of Honorable Bashir Mohammed, who is also, let me almost borrow his word, more than 100% aware of these issues. Now, it comes to one thing. We need to schedule these projects and then also find the appropriate funding, whether Government of Ghana, whether internally generated funds. So that has to be a roundtable discussion, and it is not something that is amiss. We have currently done Kwashibu Racecourse Bridge, fantastic. Mind you, a lot of monies go into these bridges. We can't just do a tiny bit project, which then will be broken down and redone. From a government standpoint, the one under the racecourse is a GOG project, and we're doing one also at Papaye towards Agape, and that is the most current bridge we're working on. So what happens is that we don't do just a footbridge. It has to be a bridge that can be also driven over by a car, and that is very essential. So in the interim, I think that with the help of the municipal engineers, we may see how best we can expedite the process of getting the appropriate contractor to handle. But at least in the past 3 months, we've done Racecourse, we're doing the Agape one, and these are projects well in the range of above 800,000.
Okay. Sorry to cut you, but what we saw is right near a school. So we understand the fact that, it's a lot of people and a lot of organizations come into play to effect these changes. But what are you doing as an individual, as a member of parliament for this constituency, for that particular bridge, because the students' lives are at stake?
I agree 100% with you in terms of the student lives. But I think that in the interim, what we will do is to see how best we can, as it is, make it secure for the people that cross over these bridges. That won't take much. That we can do. But it is always important that you look at the bigger picture, because I know how these things work. Sometimes if you put in just the interim measure and forget the bigger picture, the same people will come complaining that, this is what we've done, they are not happy with it. But I think looking at the dry season now is the most opportune time. But we're touching on a few other places, and this is so close to me, I cannot forget it. Yeah.
We drove just about 5 minutes to see you here after the place.
When you called me, I was like, well, I'm in the area. Though I have not been able to go there with you, but I'm in the area. It is known to me, and we'll put in the necessary measures.
Well, there's also the situation of a house built on a drain or drain system or waterway, where the person is taking your municipality to court. Are you aware of the situation, and what are you doing to make it go away?
In fact, we showed this to Road Ministry as well, and this is one of the bridges that, houses that is in a waterway, without a doubt. And I think that since it's in court, the less I talk about it, the better. But what everybody should know is that we intend, we don't have a choice for the people living in the area to be able to make way for water so that all the community benefits. It is for all of us. And more importantly, that house is drowning and it is not even safe for the inhabitants. So their safety also is very important to us. And I think that once it's in court, we'll let the jury make the verdict. But what is very clear to us, whether he was issued a permit in the past or not, at the moment, it is in the path of water. And for the people living in that house, their own safety, government needs to take action. These are the same people who should, in case they get drowned or come saying that, hey, government didn't come to our aid, they didn't help us. But we don't want to wait until that house drowns or people in that house, are taken away or washed away by water. Sometimes government has to be a father figure to take actions, bold actions that might not be in the interest of you, the house owner, but in the interest of the greater community. And in this case, this is more of a greater community decision. And I have nothing personal against the resident or the owner of that house, but this is a decision that the Assembly has sat on with very appropriate stakeholders, including the engineers, and planning and clearly, it doesn't take rocket science to see that that house is in a waterway, and it's not just a small waterway, a major waterway. And I think that within the foreseeable 6 months, reason will give way, and the ruling of the judges will help us do the needful thing so that the state will compensate him to an extent for any losses, and then the appropriate thing will be done so that when we clear that, then some of the flooding upstream will reduce. And let me use this opportunity to beg people who litter with rubber, because it's one of the things that makes the blockages, and that we're unable to have water flow well. And then in addition, some bad habits of dumping our refuse in the drains when it rains. It's so unnatural. If I think about it, I don't think normal functioning citizenry will be interested in dumping their refuse in the water that we'll be drinking. And all of this we drink later on, because it's this water that Ghana Water will then rehabilitate for us to drink. So I really think and hope that we will stop these habits.
Well, we'll monitor the situation. You say 6 months and see how that is resolved. But it was interesting speaking to the Assemblyman. After telling us about the challenges, he went on to say that you're doing enough, you're doing your best, he has no bone of contention with you, blah, blah, blah. My question to you is, 27th of this month, MPP parliamentary primaries. How hopeful are you? And do you think you have worthy opponents?
Well, there's the beautiful thing about the MPP. We believe in contest. And I think that competition gets you to work very hard. And I would say that the people competing me, or the person competing me, they've put me on my feet. And I have no issues with them. They've been very firm and giving me a very tough run. Not for my money. As for money, they're me, Dr. Kisi. I don't have much. But I must admit, they claim they have much. But my campaign literally believes that governance necessarily isn't just for the rich. Governance is for the people and by the people. And not necessarily all rich men are politicians. And there's a lot to politics than just money. You need to be somebody with the capability and capacity to do the real deal, which is the legislative work, which is the evaluation and monitoring, which is the policy assessments. I mean, that is what the legislative work really is. And you might score so well on that. But then, now, the engagements, the weddings, the funerals, the community time, and these are the things that unfortunately sometimes are looked at, and literally that is where then some people want people who can just dole out cash into their pockets without looking at the possibility of someone who can engineer and make government take its sole responsibility of helping with our development. What I'm hoping to do is to go back to the Esiahenes, which is the voters, and to plead with them that, I think everybody deserves a second chance. My thing is to just beg that they give me that second chance. It takes time to really grasp parliamentary duties and work. Within the space of 3 years now, I even don't think that I'm very vexed in the true dealings of Parliament. I think that, in fact, in the future, maybe the appropriate thing from a party standpoint is that contest should be after 2 terms. When you can truly assess the person over an 8-year period and then say that, listen, now if you want to proceed, then you have to show and tell the people what you've done within the 8 years. So I'm pleading with them that they give me a second run, and I can assure them that the second one will be far better than the first.
You'd agree with me?
Rain, what they say, the latter rain. So the second one will be much better than the first. And one of the key things is that once I'm asking them to maintain me, I'll do whatever it takes to maintain them, so that they'll continue to support and work hard for the party.
You said that you spoke about real assessments or conclusive assessments after 8 years. You've done 4 years. What do you think you have done specifically? You've done 3 years going into 4. Specifically, what have you done that you think will inspire confidence in the voters to vote for you again? Just list a couple of things that you've done in terms of legislative, community, all of it.
One key thing is that I have been their representative, and I think I've done that very well in terms of my ability to sell our problems and to make the government aware. I mean, one of the biggest engagements I did, October of 2022, is that I brought governmental agencies to Pentecost University and had the township engage them and tell them their grievances, their problems, just as you've done today. But I had the deputy minister for roads here. I had people from energy, Ghana ECG was here, Ghana Water was here, and it was a fantastic thing. There are portions in our community that do not have water. So they had the direct interaction with leadership in these various organizations, even including fire service. And I think that was a plus, where Anyanso Tum was able to sell. And we had done drone pictures of our area in terms of our road deficits. And we were able, within the space of 15 minutes, to show them key roads like Agape, key roads like Kwashibu, key roads like Odogono, Blue Kiosk, key roads like Onyinase, where I'll be even going today with some leadership to see how best we can help with Onyinase. And then, I can name the Fan Milk area issues, Lobnava, and so far, one of the roads that makes me so happy is the Heaven Church and Puma Junction Road. If you know the before and now, that alone, I think, should be even a plus. And then, fortunately, during my tenure, the Ajanawan one has been started, and that is going to be the biggest employer in my constituency. And I see nurses getting jobs there, people who will be working on curtains, taxi rank, the people cooking to sell. A host of things that will happen because of the Agenda 111. And I've always been very thankful to the Vice President, Mahmoud Bawumia, His Excellency, and the President, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, because the Agenda 111 is a huge blessing to my constituency. A $10 million project, never been heard of. We've never had anything up to that tune of about $10 million for Anyansotum. Never. So I cherish it, and I hope that we will open that door end of this year for patients to enter and enjoy the services and the blessings. Anytime I see the ambulances, I'm happy. We have an ambulance too. And when it commutes patients for further testing, when it commutes patients to other regional hospitals, we are happy. And I know that health has no colors. It doesn't have MPP, it doesn't have NDC. So any government that prioritizes health really loves the people. Any government. And Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, based on his ambitions, he is second to none when it comes to health infrastructure, when it also comes to health development. Just recently, graduates in medicine are now being paid for again. This was stopped by the other administration, who I think didn't value the human capital investment in doctors or nurses. We have also even added the nurses allowance, which you know. So I really think that when it comes to health, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's administration and even our management of COVID tops it all. We have really performed for the people.
Well, I hope that come 27th of January, your people vote for you. Now, since we have you, and because you mentioned Nana Akufo-Addo, the government and what you're doing, I remember September last year, your defense of the 10% tax imposed on lottery winnings and betting winnings. How do you feel right now about the tax being imposed on residential use of electricity? Because you defended that one, it just came to mind. I want to know how you feel about this too.
You know, times really are tough. But I believe that to pay a little and have my electricity on, I mean, that is what we have to do. Pay a little so that you have your light on. It's better than no light. So I'll encourage Ghanaians, it is difficult. We all have to share a little, a pinch here and there, so that we can all have our light on. And for me, it's better than having your things in the fridge go bad. It's better than preparing for a wedding and your barber shop can't have light on. And you know, the women and your hairdressing salons, if you go and the lights are off, you're in trouble.
But what's causing the problem in the first place?
Well, at the moment, we all know that the infrastructure is there, but the financing, and the financing, to get the financing right, we have to burden the ordinary person. And that one, it is rule number one. As you want, you have to give. Is like that. So I'll plead with Ghanaians. It is difficult. I run, a facility, and I'm paying heavily for electricity, and I know it's tough. It's tough. If you're a private business owner, you have employees who also have their light bills increased at home, and they are asking for pay increase and all that. So I appreciate it, but what can we do? We are the same people in need of development. And development, electricity staying on is very important for our developmental purposes. The students who come and study at home in the evening, if they want to pass their exams, the lights must stay on. If the lights are off, your children will not perform well. So it is a very tough one. I know the cabinet went through a lot of, no's and yeas. But eventually, when the numbers are looked at, we didn't have a choice. We would have wished that nobody will be paying more this time. But the numerous projects, the numerous grand things we've done in terms of services that government provides. And the Ghana card, all of these things, fantastic things. Yede kashito and yeah.
Dr. Adomako, I get all that you're saying, but I do not think that the average Ghanaian, grassroots citizens, people like me, are happy with.
I didn't say I'm happy.
No, I don't think that they're happy with how much we're giving to the government and how little, or seemingly little, that the government is doing for us. But you're saying that we have to share because Abai or say.
Let me also add that I didn't want to say this to Joy News, but the media has not amplified government's work. Mokahubi. The little things, you need to learn to amplify it so that the average person can appreciate what government is going through. But it seems that unfortunately, and forgive me, I love Joy News, I think that you, the media houses, also have a key role to let people know the small things that we've done, even if it's small. But here's a case that, trust me, I have seen coverage and they give a small bit to the big picture and then they go and focus on the enti your media houses no se mo be jai no ma nya de enkoyi nkwa niema na ma capture, forgive my local thing, but it is dear to me. The media, let's learn to, at least if you amplify it, at least talk about it. There are 100,000 things that our government has done, but you give just a small, un poquito, my Spanish, un poquito.
We are reporting what you see. So it would help if you also draw attention to what you think we should be reporting on if we are missing that. But unfortunately, that's all that time will allow us to have. Maybe we can continue this conversation another time. Thank you so much. This is Dr. Dumaku Kisi here at Anya Sotum constituency, who responded to citizens' grievances. It started from the Brazier House on drainage, and then he talked briefly about the electricity VAT imposed on residential use of electricity. So over to you in the studio. This has been AM on Wheels. My name is Sweetie Abochi. Benjamin, over to you.
Well, from Anyasa Utuum and that discussion with the constituents, first of all, and then the Member of Parliament. That's our recap of the conversation this morning on the AM show. But stay with us on this network. Tomorrow, we'll come your way with another installment of this show. But coming up next, Joy News Desk. Do stay for that. Have a wonderful day.